This is not a ride sharing video. I repeat, this is not a ride sharing video. So today, if you've been watching the news for any length of time, you would know that President Biden is in Poland and just gave a pretty strong speech in regards to letting the Russians know that the Ukraine will not fall to Russia. That at least under Biden's watch, the United States will continue to back the Ukraine, as Biden would suggest, no matter how long it takes. So the question we're going to start out asking today is, do you support President Biden's interaction in the Ukraine? And what would happen if President Biden decided not to interfere with that conflict? How about number 45? You know, this is a MAGA-friendly program. If number 45 was in office, if President Trump was in office, how might this entire conflict be different? Going straight to the box with my solemn promise, I do not ban, block, or censor anyone for their commentary. The fact that you may disagree with the host never means a damn thing here. Give you plenty of time in the box to state your point without any fear of censorship. So, starting the program out, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. It helps out the algorithms, brings more MAGA to the forum. Nevertheless, liberals are welcome too. So, looking in the comments, I think I'm going to have to hold up my tablet. Where's Biden in Ohio, says Rusty2456. If Biden went to Ohio, I mean, would that make a difference? Biden, or better yet, Kamala Harris went to the border after taking forever to get down there. But now that she's went, nobody's really celebrating the fact that she went down there. If Biden went to Ohio, like he's went to locations where there's been either, police brutality shootings or where there has been, other mass casualty events, is somebody really going to give him credit? I suppose we could criticize him for not going to Ohio, but if he actually went, would anybody be like, yeah, great, yay, Biden? Probably not, but let me know in the comments. Didn't Ohio say they didn't need government assistance? It's Prodigy. That's an excellent comeback. I'm not aware of that. Did they say that? That Biden coming down there would be some sort of an interference? I have not heard that. By the way, folks, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. We're going to go straight to the box. It is Doc Sparkle Pony. Good afternoon. Welcome back to forum. Sparkle Pony.
Oh my goodness, it's only been like 2 days. Sheesh.
Couple days. So what do you think about Biden going over to the Ukraine?
Well, here's what I'll say. I think that we've done a lot of things in politics that make no sense, right? I think that, one day they're an enemy, one day they're a friend, one day they're an enemy, one day they're a friend. I mean, it doesn't really matter who's in office, right? And I'm not blaming anyone for either side, right? What I'll say is this. I think that what we have right now is we have a dichotomy of whether or not we want to be a part of NATO as big of a deal as we used to be, or whether or not we want to kind of, disregard their,
But when you say a dichotomy on whether we want to be a part of NATO or not, do you see that under President Biden? Because Biden just stated today,
I
and I'm a
didn't say that. I didn't say
okay.
that.
So I'm trying to think, where is that coming from then?
Well, I'd say that right now, just in this particular, instance that we have right now, we have a dichotomy, especially for President Biden, on whether or not, we want to be a part of, a lot of the NATO treaties and a lot of the NATO issues that we've had so far. And I'm not saying that what Trump did was good. By the way, I never voted for the M or F guys, by the way, so please don't call me whatever the F you
Well,
guys want to call me.
when you're saying a
But
dichotomy, hold on. When you're saying a dichotomy about whether to be with NATO or some of the treaties, who is considering whether or not to do that? If it's President Biden, he seems wholeheartedly behind NATO. So where's the
right.
opposition coming from?
Well, the opposition's coming from NATO, and that's what I'm trying to say is, like, if we want, I don't think NATO believes that we have their full support, right? And that's just my opinion. And
Okay.
I think that you can find a lot of truth in that if you look into some of the things that we've had in the past, not only with fucking Trump but with Biden. All right, guys, like both presidents have done things that have disregarded a lot of NATO treaty, I guess you could say laws. I don't think they're really laws, but they're if you want to put that word to it, whatever. I think what we have right now is we have an issue of whether or not we want to continue deciding whether or not war and
Okay,
you know
let me get in here in a minute. Okay, now in regards to your comment that a lot of NATO member states do not believe America has their back, if that is the sentiment, why has under Biden's watch both Finland and Sweden joined NATO? If NATO is not dependable, why is it expanding?
well, I can tell you exactly why. Because it's exactly what we have, in this dang United States of America, where let's push a little bit of power onto each other to make sure that we press the idea that you should be doing something right. I don't believe that what they did. I don't believe that what they did was because they had some sort of idea that they would be backed by the United States. I think what they did was to make sure that they pressed upon the United States that they should be doing something right. And
So Sweden and Finland joined NATO to press upon the United States?
I believe 100% that's exactly what they did. And I think that anyone that wants to go look at exactly why those two particular countries might want to do that should go research exactly why NATO started in particular in general. I wonder why
Okay.
NATO started, and I wonder why Sweden and Finland decided to do that. Oh, weird. Maybe if you looked
Okay.
into it and maybe if you researched it, you'd find out that those two countries in particular weren't really expanded
Okay.
into NATO to begin with.
Here's
So,
where I'm confused and where I'm baffled at. If nations do not believe America has the backs of other NATO member states, and here you got Biden walking down the streets of Kyiv in active war zone with air raid sirens going off in the back, doing a speech promising Russia that they will never have control of the Ukraine. How much more could America have the back of a country than that?
well, so okay, all right. What I would say is that, and you know what? I'm not a MAGA person, all right, but I'm gonna say what I'm gonna have to say. Um, I do believe that there was one executive in power that said "fuck around and find out," and I do believe there's one that didn't, all right. And I believe the reason why there was one that didn't is the reason why we're at where we're at right now, all right. And I'm not saying
So,
that. Hold on, time
okay,
out. Hold on, hold
okay,
on. I'm not saying that
make
either
it a
one's
little
wrong.
shorter. Your statements are fairly long. That's why I'm doing it. Go ahead.
I'm not saying that either one was right or wrong. I'm just saying that that was their way of doing things. Okay, and
Which
I
one is the fuck around and find out guy?
that would be President Trump.
Okay, so do you believe that under Biden, 100,000 Russian soldiers have died?
No, I don't believe that at all. I believe that it's not either executive's fault. I think that
No, no, that's
there was
not what I'm asking. I asked you, do you believe the casualty numbers suggesting that Russia has lost 100,000 soldiers under this war?
no. But are you suggesting that it's Trump's fault?
I'm not talking about Trump at all. I'm asking you
But
under
I'm asking. But
Ukraine.
I'm asking you. Do you believe it's Trump's fault?
Do I believe what Russia did? They did it because of Trump. That doesn't make any sense. No, Trump has nothing to do with the
Okay,
Ukrainian
all
war.
right. So then I
So
believe
I'm
the exact
asking you,
opposite.
do you believe the
No.
casualty numbers that Russia has lost 100,000 soldiers?
No, I don't. I never have.
Okay.
I
Okay.
never believed that. I said the executives of both, different, different presidential, candidacies and or things that they've done, under their regime, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. I call it a regime at this point because I think executive power has become way too
Fair enough.
ridiculous.
Okay,
But
well, let me ask you this question. What do you think would be a reasonable estimate in terms of how many soldiers Russia has lost? I'm assuming you think they have lost at least one guy. So what do you believe would be a reasonable estimate since you believe 100,000 is false?
oh, I think maybe like six
You
thousand, maybe to 10 at best. Guys, by the
so
way, I served in the army, and
Okay, so wait.
I
You're
know.
you're you're talking to me. I understand you're trying to respond to the comments simultaneously, but let's have a conversation. So, if you believe 6 to 10,000, which obviously is only a fraction of what everybody else is saying, but even if you say 6 to 10,000, how does losing 10,000 soldiers not qualify as fuck around and find out?
Well, so that's what I'm trying to say is that, um, you know, I believe that Trump was a little more authoritative about going into Ukraine. I think what he said was, if you do it, you fuck around and find out and see what happens to Moscow. And I think that he actually did that. I think that there is actual evidence of it. And I think there are people that could put their backing behind what I'm saying right now. That there are people that heard what he said to Putin. I don't believe that Biden said that, but I don't believe that what Biden did was 100% wrong either. Like, and that's the thing is that each executive power has their own way of doing things. And, I think the reason why Putin took his chance is because he said, you know what? At this point in time, the American people have a progress problem, if you will, between their own citizens. And at this point, they have an executive branch that is trying to figure out how to figure out their own country instead of figuring out the international problems. Okay,
Okay,
and
all
and
right.
so and so those kinds of problems, the international problems, all right, those are the problems that I believe the executive branch is supposed to be involved in, and not necessarily our domestic problems. And
All right.
instead, we had too many domestic problems that the executive branch was involved in.
Well, I do have to move it on, but you're entitled to that. But that is your opinion of how those branches should
Well,
behave. I'm assuming.
Can I have one more opinion though, real quick?
Real quick. I gave you
Okay.
plenty of time. Real quick, go ahead, wrap it up.
I think a lot of this has to do with economy too. And I think a lot of people that don't want to talk about economy when it comes to this don't understand that there's an international economy versus a domestic economy. Okay?
All
International
right.
economy matters in this. And if you want to go find out what scales of economy are and where they matter, okay, that has so much to do with
Okay.
this.
All right. I got to move it on. Appreciate you coming in. All right. Look. Comments. And now, you know something in the comments, I see Jules says, is Russia weaker today versus when Trump was in office? They are asking China for help. Ha ha. That is true. Now, me and the last caller off, I make it clear I do not ban, block, or censor anyone for their commentary. And obviously, me and the last caller completely disagree, particularly with his reasonable estimate that Russia has only lost 6,000 soldiers. When they're suggesting that Russia has now instituted a draft, over 1 million citizens have fled Russia because of this event. 6,000? Really? A year worth of war, only 6,000. Now, so me and the last caller clearly disagree. I understand for morale's sake, there may be an inflation of the Russian deaths, but going from 6,000 to 100,000, there's no way I believe the number is anywhere near that low. All right, going back to the box. It is odd. I can't pronounce, we'll just say odds boy. Welcome to the program. I don't tap the screen, get your boy up to 10,000 likes. This is a MAGA friendly program. I don't ban blockers anyone. Tapping the screen helps the algorithms out. MAGA are my preferred guests. Nevertheless, liberals are welcome too. Odds, boy, am I pronouncing that right?
It's a ODST boy, yes.
Okay, I don't like calling a grown man boy. It has historical context. But what do you think in regards to Biden's intervention in the Ukraine?
I I think it's a good thing that Biden's actually in full support of Ukraine. Personally, that's
So
just my.
I'm assuming you heard my last caller. Obviously, there's Americans that are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum on this. Why do you think so many Americans are like his side of the mindset, where it's totally, a bad thing that Biden is doing this?
I think it just has to do with the division of people in political parties. There's a lot
Yeah.
of people. I believe that there's a lot of people in this world that want to see other political parties fail just based on beliefs alone, and they will do anything to, using fallacious argument, to achieve that method. And it's kind of sad that they can't see the actual full situation that's going on here.
So let me pose this to you, because this is coming from, looks like, Ileana in the comments. Why was war, better yet, why is war escalated when Biden is in charge? Do you see this Russian incursion as a symbol that, Biden's in office, we can go ahead and take the Ukraine? Now, do you think that Putin only did this because of the American president?
No, I absolutely don't think so. I really don't. Like, I think it may have a factor into it. Honestly, I do not know, but I don't think it has really much to do with the U.S. president because, as we've seen before, Ukraine has always been under threat of Russian invasion because of
Right.
Russian-backed insurgents fighting on the eastern border of Ukraine for ever since the separation of the USSR and so on and so forth, and Ukraine's sovereignty. This isn't the
Yeah.
first time it's happened, and it won't be the last. And I believe that.
Yeah. And in regards to that, Ileana, the same individual in the comments, suggested that Russia only invaded during Obama and Biden. I guess you never heard of the 2008 invasion of Georgia under President Bush. I'm assuming you don't count that one. You only count the Crimea under Obama in 2014 and what's going on now. But it also happened under George W. Bush. So I would invite you to check that, or, fun fact that. So,
Yeah,
do you believe what a lot of MAGA supporters have said? I'm talking to you, Osborne. Do you believe that under Trump, this would not have happened?
honestly, I don't know because me personally, I'm not a MAGA supporter. I'm absolutely in distaste of it, actually. But honestly, I wouldn't know personally. I would have to. I would probably think I need to look more into that to see what that would statistically lead up to.
Okay. Do you believe our involvement in NATO was a good thing? Because under President Trump, he was suggesting either make these folks pay their financial dues or disband NATO. Do you believe the coalition of NATO is a good thing for this country?
Uh, Defense-wise, yes. However, I do not believe that NATO is entirely necessary to the complete safety of the U.S. citizens entirely, because there's a lot more factors geopolitically and just politically in general that are more important than just and than NATO and the
Give me
United
some
Nations.
examples. Elaborate. Give me some examples of that.
Well, like for example, healthcare being one. Personally, like that's I consider healthcare to be a good safety measure for the American citizens entirely, and it has nothing to do with
How so?
NATO.
How is that? You're saying we're safer with help? Explain that. I don't get how that correlates to this.
I'm sorry. Hold on. So what? Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. I actually have to get going. My
Okay.
apologies. I have to cut you off.
All right.
My bad about
Fair
that.
enough. All right. In the comments, he should visit Ohio. I do agree with what happened in Ohio, Kev, that Biden should have went to Ohio. Same thing with the border. When we had a mess at the border, the president should have went there sooner. But nevertheless, you have to understand the folks criticizing Biden for not going to these places. If he had went to these places from day one, they would just simply say he didn't do enough when he went there. You're not going to satisfy your critics by doing what they suggest you do, because they don't think you can do anything right. If Kamala Harris had went down to the border on day one, they would have just said she's blind. Do you not see what the hell's happening down here? Why aren't you doing more? So now they're not complaining about her going to the border. They're still complaining about her policies. And the same thing with President Biden. If he goes to Ohio, then maybe it's Pete Buttigieg you go after. I mean, if you know how to complain, you know how to alter your complaints to fit the current narrative. By the way, tap the screen. We should be at 15,000. We got over 1,000 of you folks in here. I do appreciate the fact you could be anywhere on TikTok and you're rolling with your boy. I'll go right back to the box. Wait a minute. What did that say? Democrats said President Trump would start World War III. Take a look at what's happening now. Says Mr. Wonderful. Straight out of Shark Tank, huh? You are correct. I refer to that as Armageddon politics. When the opposition wins, you suggest they're going to do something that is essentially going to change the country, if not the world as we know it. Remember how when Obama got elected, he was going to raise taxes to 70%, take away everybody's guns, gas was going to be $5 a gallon, and he was going to turn America into socialist Greece. At the time, Greece had the failed economy. Nowadays, they're using Venezuela because Greece has recovered. That's called Armageddon politics. No different than suggesting Trump is going to turn us into World War III. Same thing with Biden. Folks are saying the entire world is going to end under Biden. That's Armageddon politics. Both sides do it. Let me go back to the box. We'll keep it moving with Semantics Dome. I don't know. Got a lot of new folks. I do appreciate that. If you like this type of civilized dialogue between both sides, no tip, not even a moderator. Feel free to follow the program. Semantics, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you doing? I wasn't expecting the little red thing popped up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm on."
Okay. Yeah, TikTok moves you guys' names around, so I try to get you in order, but unfortunately, I don't have control over what the hell they're doing. You're not Chinese, so there's no reason to put you first. But let me ask you, Biden in the Ukraine, do you believe his policies, the way he's handling this, is proper?
I think so. I mean, I haven't been following it as closely in the last couple of weeks. I've been really busy. But here's the thing: like, if we believe that, and I'm sorry about the echo. I'm literally in an empty room.
I can hear you. You're good.
If we believe that the United States should adhere to and honor its word, like our agreements, then yes, I do.
But we don't have an agreement with the Ukraine. They're not part of NATO. We do.
You're right. They're not part of NATO. Here, let me try my camera just because I feel like when I'm waving my hands, I look like a dummy when there's nobody can see me. So here's what we have. After just a quick little history lesson. After the Soviet Union fell apart in 1991, the country of Ukraine was one of the countries that broke off. Right, Russia, everybody else. They became the third largest holder of nuclear weapons in the world.
That is true. I know where you're going, where we had them give up their Soviet nukes and us, the USSR, or better yet, Russia and England, promised to protect that country.
You're right, we did. And the reason that they didn't want to give them up is because they said Russia is going to come here and take over. And we promised them, us, the UK, and Russia all signed the Budapest Memorandum, right? And we agreed that we will protect your sovereignty for that reason, right? And we said whatever it takes. And the price was you get rid of all of the third largest stockpile of nuclear weapons. In my opinion is that we made an agreement. You know, we just got to honor it. Like, right? I wasn't thrilled about the agreement that Donald Trump made with Afghanistan that we would get out in, I'm going to make up a date, but like April or May of last year, or sorry, 2021. But Biden had to do it, right? We don't go back on our word, or we shouldn't go back on our word because we don't.
When you say we don't go back on our word, you had Trump talking. Well, Trump got us out of the Iranian deal. He was going for the Paris Accord. He was talking about NATO. Hell, he was talking about separating from the World Health Organization. So under President Trump, even NAFTA, he was. Trump was going after a hell of a lot of deals we've made.
You're right. And so, look, I don't agree with that. But going back to just the Budapest Memorandum, I think we have an obligation. We basically told them, get rid of the only thing that will keep Russia from coming in here and taking over, and we'll protect you. And so my opinion is, look, we got to protect them. We whether or not they're part of NATO,
what if protecting them means World War III? You down with that? You think we should go that far with it?
Unfortunately, like, look, I'm not for war. I'm not for World War III, but
we're already in war. It's just a
Sure.
matter of World War III. We already, and we have. I don't know if you've heard, but China is already suggesting they're going to start arming Russia the way we're arming in Ukraine. So this is developing.
Yeah, look, I can absolutely see it. And you know what? It goes down, it comes down to, if I use the analogy of like, look, you co-signed on somebody's mortgage and now the bill's due. Like, do you think you should, go bankrupt by paying off this other? Well, you made the agreement. Like you
Yeah.
signed that check so long ago, and it sucks. But the result is, I've heard on some other lives people saying, and I have a hard stop in 9 minutes. So if I bail, I don't want to be rude. I have another meeting, but I've heard on so many TikToks. Well, let's let Russia, let's let them stop. They'll stop at Ukraine, or let them negotiate. They didn't stop after Crimea, right? In 2014, we all know what happened.
Right.
They spent,
Yeah.
we kicked them out of the G8, and they spent the next. Going back to one of your questions when you said, "Would this happen under Donald Trump?" No, it didn't, because they spent that time stockpiling. What was it, like $70 billion, like U.S. dollars,
Yes,
to
but so
weather the storm, right?
are you suggesting that if Trump had been given a second term, this would have happened anyway?
I think date-wise, yeah, I think it could have. I think it's possible
Now
because they.
Trump had a favorable relationship with Putin. You still think it would happen?
I think it was a favorable. A lot of folks call him an asset. I don't know if I go that far, but I go as far as maybe.
I hear
I
you.
don't know, like he was a little too friendly, a little too. There was the whole, the Helsinki meeting, all that stuff. I think it was naivety on his behalf. I think it's like he didn't understand the adversarial nature of just who Putin is. Like
Yeah.
that dude.
Yeah,
That dude
he
is.
spoke quite favorably of Putin. But let me ask you this. I do got to move it on, but before I do, if Putin had a went into the Ukraine under a second Trump administration, in your humble opinion, how do you believe Trump would have responded to what happened as opposed to Biden?
Um, I think it's possible he might have, in some cases, sort of looked the other way. Not like completely, but
Mm,
not gone as far as. Again, we don't know what he's got on him. We don't know if he has anything on him, or that he's just naive. But I think he would have made a lot of statements that would have made everybody else very upset. Like, well, let's just see if those people want to stay there. It would have been more a lot of platitudes that might not have made the situation better. I think his military generals would have been telling him, "Mr. Trump, we need to do this," and he would have been like, fine, let's."
well, on the world stage, a lot of NATO member nations are happy with what we're doing because they believe that Russia was not going to stop at the Ukraine. I mean,
Yeah.
how do those same nations, Romania and some of these other nations, how do you think they feel or would feel it? Because I mean, obviously, Trump is a big chance of has a big chance of being reelected. Do you think they see any difference in regards to how the United States may respond or behave in that theater, depending on which one of these guys is our next president?
Yeah, I think they're sitting there, maybe a little shaking in their boots, thinking, "God, we just hope that whatever, that he doesn't get reelected, because we want some stability." There's stability with what we do, and there's stability with what we say, right? Like, you can't say the wrong thing, as he frequently did, right? He would frequently say just the wrong thing and make countries just not feel comfortable. And I think that they're looking at that. Like, look, the rest of us go, he's tweeting this dumb thing. But for these countries, they're like, wait, does he really not have our back? Like, are you serious right
Mm,
now? Because
yeah,
we have been one of the biggest allies for a lot of these countries for a long time.
fair enough. I got to move it on semantics.
Thank you for your
Always a
time.
pleasure.
I appreciate it.
First time talking. First time
Yes,
talking.
and I'll be honest. I've swiped by so many times on you going like, oh, look at this guy, and like, this is the first time I've actually listened. And I don't always like what you have to say, but I definitely like how you say it. I definitely like how civil you are and how
I can live
polite
with
you are to
that. I
everybody.
can live with that. I can live with that. Come on back through anytime, man.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Always. Always a pleasure. And by the way, folks, just giving you my spiel before I go back to the bottom. As the last caller was alluding to, I don't ban, block, or censor anyone for their commentary. The fact that you may disagree with yours truly as the host doesn't mean a damn thing. I respect your right to free speech as much as I do my own. So I'll never block or ban you for what you're talking about just because I don't just because I don't agree with it. The hat is always going to be where it is, for the simple fact that this is a MAGA friendly program. I might lean left, but I make no qualms about the fact that I believe MAGA does not get a fair play, conservatives or Republicans. In the main, always welcome here without any fear of being banned, blocked, or censored. All right, going back to the comments, President Joe Biden is saving America. Saving us from what? By the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene, real quick, we'll go back to the topic, but Marjorie Taylor Greene suggests that Republican states need to quote unquote divorce themselves from Democratic states. How would you guys feel about a Republican nation and a Democratic nation in this country? A complete fracturing of the nation. Do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is currently on the Homeland Security Committee, you think her words resonate with you or they sound ridiculous? Separating the red states and blue states. Next, going back to the box, it is Out of the Matrix. Good afternoon, Mr. The Matrix. Once again, friend of the program, welcome back. By the way, folks, tap the screen. 30,000 likes is quite possible. The fact that you guys are rolling with me is always an honor. Out of the Matrix. Good afternoon.
What's going on, man? I just jumped in because I saw your caption for the live today had to do with should Biden have gone to Ukraine
Yeah,
and was it good or bad?
he just gave a really, some. By the way, folks, and I'll ask you this as well. I don't know if you just seen the speech he gave in Poland. Does this guy really seem like, he meets the criteria of having dementia, cannot string together two sentences, does not know where the hell he is most of the time? He just went to Poland. I mean, now he went to Ukraine and walked down the streets of Kyiv. Does he come across really as somebody who don't know what the hell he's located at?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I watched the speech in its entirety. I noticed that the media here, C-SPAN covered the entire speech, but most people
Uh-huh.
don't watch C-SPAN. But most of the mainstream media is right and left. They covered the parts that were beneficial to their narrative. But I watched the whole thing, and it was quite embarrassing when he was referring to NATO. He was talking about Japan and the Pacific Ocean, and it was totally. It's
What,
like
what, what did he say? Give me an actual quote of something he said that was embarrassing.
he was
Thank you,
reading off.
Victor.
Yeah, he was reading off of his speech, and he was talking about. I think he was talking, or attempting to talk about the importance of NATO alliance and how it was formed. And he went on to describe from the Atlantic to the Pacific and invoked Japan. And then he realized he fucked up, and he was like, all around the world, this thing, and just went on a like at least I would say a 2 minute ramble before he reeled it back in, and it was just like, whoa, dude. Like, but anyways, as far as him going to.
Now, in regard to your point about folks covered part of the speech to fit their narrative, I'll be looking forward to seeing the Biden outtakes coming from the right wing side of the aisle, because if he did screw up like you're talking about, I'm sure
Yeah,
it'll appear on Fox. There'll be TikTok videos. I haven't heard that stuff though.
yeah, I if anyone that's in the comments after his live is done here, I posted the video of this exchange. It's on my page. But anyways,
Thank you for the TikTok cap. So let me ask you this: if Trump was in charge, do you think this whole event would have happened?
I mean, it's hard to say, right? Like, I like to think that since we had 4 years of prosperity, from a domestic standpoint, and that we had 4 years of positive things such as the Abraham Accords, a plan to pull out of Afghanistan, no further encroachment into Ukraine by the Russians. We weren't talking about China invading Taiwan. I mean, so much was going on a positive front under Trump. It's hard for me to imagine that this would have happened with him still in office, but nobody can say for sure. It would be purely speculation on my part to say one way or the other. But I would think with the trend, had it continued, probably not.
Okay, so let's speculate. Let's for shits and giggles imagine it actually did happen. How do you think Trump would have responded if Russia did exactly what they just did under Biden? How might Trump have responded?
Honestly, it's hard to imagine, right? Because like for someone who like I follow Trump in his private sector life as well as in his public life, and there's a bravado behind him that's ultimately in place to get what he wants at the end of the deal there. Like with the threats of pulling out of NATO if NATO members didn't, you know, kick in their fair share and stuff like that. I don't know that he believed that when he was saying. I think that it ultimately brought forth, you know, I think something in the neighborhoods north of $100 billion in new contributions from NATO allies over the course of his presidency. And I think that's what he was going for. So to say,
Yeah, but
so like,
you're not tackling what I'm asking you.
yeah,
If
no,
this
that's what
had
I'm saying. Like,
somehow happened under Trump,
well, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, if you were to go based off of his rhetoric, he probably wouldn't have done much of anything, right? But if you were to go based off of his actions, because his actions hasn't always matched his rhetoric, I would like to think that he would honor America's commitment to our allies, because he did on all of his foreign policy, except for some of the rhetoric that he used in order to get other NATO nations to pay their fair share of being a part of
well,
that
but
alliance.
in regards to your point that he honors our commitments with our allies, we made the Iran deal with the approval of several other countries. When Trump got us out of the Iran deal, many of our allies were not happy that he done that. So when you say he
Yeah,
did
but
things with the approval of,
yeah, no,
go
I
ahead.
get that, but he was very forthcoming about what his intentions on the campaign trail, and the voters had a chance to weigh
Yeah.
in regards to the Iran deal. And when you look at the Iran deal, without pulling out of that, you don't have the Abraham Accords. The UAE would have never signed on to normalizing relationships with Bahrain, Morocco, or Israel if we were still involved in the Iran nuclear agreement, because UAE understands and dislikes the fact that Iran is the number one funder of terrorists in the Middle East. Um, Very much so responsible for what's going on in Yemen right now and keeping that thing alive, uh, as well as we are to some degree. But I mean, yes, he did pull out of that the Iran nuclear agreement, but without pulling out of that, the Abraham Accords would have never came to fruition, and that was far greater, in my opinion, of an accomplishment than an Iran nuclear agreement.
So if let's say Biden did exactly what many suggest that Trump did, if Biden had not have went in there and helped the Ukraine, how do you think this event would have turned out at this point? If Biden had not been sending billions of dollars in aid and weaponry to the Ukraine?
I think that Russia probably would have already overtaken Ukraine at this point,
Yeah.
if he had. But again, therein lies the origin story, right? Like, would we even have been in a position under Trump to have to supply all of
Well,
uh
here's the problem, though. Let's assume that you and some of my beloved MAGA are correct that under Trump this would never have happened. The fact is, Trump only can be in office for a maximum of 8 years. Russia has shown twice, with taking of Georgia under President Bush and Crimea under President Obama, that they have interest in the Ukraine. Trump is not a dictator. Eventually, he has to leave office. So Putin is showing us that, okay, I'm cool with Trump, but the minute he leaves office, I'm going to do this. So we have to view it from the angle that Trump is not going to be president forever. So even
yeah.
if we want to give Trump credit, his time is limited.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And that's one of the biggest qualms I have about America's foreign policy and how much it shifts from one administration to the next, and how big of implications that can have on the rest of the world because of that being the case. And so what I would say is, if we would have had 8 years of prosperity under Donald Trump, if Donald Trump wasn't so boisterous on Twitter, if he didn't give the mainstream media a chance to
Yeah.
overshadow all his accomplishments with his rhetoric, then we would have got to see 8 years of prosperity, both foreign and domestic. And I think that would have educated the populace, or at least the majority of the voting populace, to say that we need someone, even though Donald Trump cannot be our president after his second term, who is like-minded and has, proven background, and maybe somebody even that Trump would endorse on his way out the door, who can continue his legacy and continue his positive
Well,
momentum.
let's go with that. Let's go with that. In regards to Trump endorsing someone on the way out, because I asked a question a minute ago. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who Trump does endorse, is in the news, suggesting that America's red states, the Republican states, should divorce themselves from Democratic states. How do you feel about something? You think that's a good idea?
I don't think it's a good idea, but I do think that that is honestly where we find ourselves in this political divide in this environment here in the United States. I think that I think there was a poll and 47% agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene and 49% disagree. I would be on the disagree
Why?
side.
Why would anybody agree with that? How can anyone suggest that if we break the country up along political lines, that this country would remain as strong as it is? Why would you want to weaken the country so that you can be around like-minded voters?
Yeah, I think it's a ridiculous sentiment.
Yeah.
I think that America is stronger together. I think that in the years of social media and things like this, it gives people a platform who necessarily wouldn't have had one in their private life, and you're able to find those people who have been hiding under rocks for all of eternity prior to social media, who are able to get together in large groups now and control the narrative. But I think that if you were to get 100 Republicans and 100 Democrats in a room, even in this divisive environment, that there could be common ground found, even though our politicians that represent
I agree
each of
with
those
that. I
100.
agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But this woman is a member of Congress and on the Homeland Security. She's on the Homeland Security, whatever you call it. Is that the proper place for someone this divisive to be in Congress on a Homeland Security Committee?
No, not at all. I think much like what happened to AOC and much like what happened to, uh, help me out here, she was kicked off of Foreign Intelligence Committee.
Ilhan Omar. Ilhan
Ilhan,
Omar.
yes, Ilhan Omar. The same thing needs to happen to MTG. It
Then why aren't there more, if the Republican Party sees the tribalism coming from Democrats, why are there not more Republicans speaking out against a Congresswoman saying something that is that awful?
because we're at that point right now to where like let's imagine if we look at the January 6th committee and what Nancy Pelosi did in regards to stopping Republicans putting who they wanted on that committee, or if we look at the House Intelligence Committee and who they ultimately determined was valid and even taking MTG off. We are at a point now where people are riding with their, and I say this in air quotations, football team, win, lose, or draw. And unfortunately, that's just where the majority of the country is now.
Will
Me and
that
you,
go away if now that Trump is on the ballot and likely to be the Republican nominee? Would that type of division go away if we reelect Trump?
I honestly don't think so. I don't think so. I think that it's going to take a mass movement by the people, the civil-minded people, like you and I having this conversation right now. Is despite what social media shows us with these algorithms, there are far more people on the left and right who think like you and I do than what it seems like in reality. And it's going to take those voices to be as loud as the voices who are causing this divisiveness in the country to have a bigger megaphone than the ones that are currently controlling the conversation.
I don't disagree. Out of the matrix, I got to move it on. Pleasure talking to you.
You too, brother. Have a good day.
Absolutely. All right. Comments. Double tap the screen, guys. Absolutely. Get your boy up. Shit, we might end up with 40,000 likes if there's some generous thumbs in here. Let your thumbs not be lazy. Do not let the name of the program steer you from showing your boy some love. It helps out the algorithms. I understand. I've been called to sell out and Uncle Ruckus and Uncle Tom probably a half dozen times throughout this live. I get it on every live. It's generally folks that look like myself that have not listened to the program. They see the hat and they start flinging insults. Good luck with that. Anyway, back to the comments. If we could just remove the Dems in power, then split the Republicans somehow to fit the seats, we, and in your comment, we something. Well, if you removed all the Democrats, and you used nothing but Republican politicians to fill the entire halls of Congress, Senate, and the presidency. Let's say we had a complete Republican administration, not a Democrat in sight. How might that be? Let's say you think the LGBT community would be okay? I mean, there are whole communities that probably would not fare from that. So I don't know if any situation is better off if you only give all the power to one side. There are plenty of corrupt Republicans, just as many corrupt Democrats out there. If you let one side have all the power with no checks and balances, America would turn into a far right country. You know what far right means, right? Afghanistan, Iraq, that's what a far right country would be. That's what America would be. You're either going to be a Christian or you're going to be ostracized. I mean, a woman should do this, period. Whatever it is, that's how a woman should behave. This is what children should learn, period. That's what a far right country does. All right, looking in the comments, or better yet, going back to the box. We'll keep it moving. I appreciate you guys holding on. Ford Duck, does that say that? Ford Duck? Good. Okay, let's make it up. I don't know what the hell's going on, but let's try it again. Okay, Ford Duck. Good afternoon.
How you doing?
You're doing good. Biden's intervention in the Ukraine. Do you support that?
I don't support it 100%, but I think it's a necessary. I think two speakers back said it was necessary because of the agreements that we have previously made, and so it's necessary to keep with our agreements.
Well, what about the notion that, if it leads us to World War III, maybe it's better to not honor this agreement? I get a lot of folks who suggest that it is not America's job to be the world's police, that this is one we should sit out. If you're advising the commander in chief, would you be willing to risk World War III to help the Ukraine?
Well, this is how I feel, and this is what I think, and this is coming from the evidence that we have as America being a superpower. I don't feel that anybody, not one nation, not two nations combined, not three nations combined, want to get in a world war with America. Now, let's go into facts. America spends 10 times in military as the top 11 countries
Yeah,
combined. We
right.
have nukes up the butt. We have the other thing we have that many people don't talk about. We have the world's greatest navy. And the
Well,
reason I
let me
okay, go ahead.
interrupt you. Let me interrupt you to say this. It is estimated that Russia has 5,700 nuclear weapons themselves. Go ahead.
And it only takes a couple hundred to end the world,
Right,
right?
right,
And so we
right.
have 2,000 plus. So if a war was to go off, Russia launches some nukes, we're going to launch them back. The world's ending, right? The whole world ends.
Right.
And going back, so I don't see how China and Russia, say China and Russia get together, even with Iran, even with North Korea, how they even stand a chance. Like I said, going back to what I was going to previously say, that America has the world's greatest navy. And the reason why we have that navy is because we can launch nukes not only from land, but we can do it from sea at any moment's notice.
But
And
can't Russia and China do the same?
they don't have the capabilities we have. And I know it seems that they do, but they don't.
You saying Russia does not have nuclear subs?
They do have nuclear subs, but not the capability that we have. And so that's where it
What
comes.
what capabilities are you suggesting that we have that they do not?
Well, we have the more advanced subs. We have more subs, put it that way. We have aircraft carriers. We have air
But
support,
okay,
air superiority.
okay, you might be able to throw 100 punches, and I can only throw one, but I can still throw a punch. You're saying they don't have the capabilities at all. I'm saying that, yeah, America may have more nuclear powered or nuclear armed subs than Russia, but Russia does have them.
And that's my whole point right there. That you make my point that there is no use even fighting with us. It would end the world, like I previously said. There is no use. Like China and Russia coming together to destroy the world, that makes no sense for anybody.
Yeah, you're
They
talking about mutually assured
yeah,
destruction. I
sure,
get
destruction. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that point, but
Uh-huh.
the coming together, talking about Russia and China, if they came together and made it clear that they were willing to go to the edge with America, very similar to Kennedy with the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't care if it's a mutually assured destruction. If you do this, I'm willing to go toe to toe with you. Do you see America backing down if Russia and China both teamed up and said, here's a red line. If the United States crosses it, it is what it is. Do you see us backing down?
I don't see us backing down, especially after Biden's speech today, this morning. After I saw it, he made it very clear he's not backing down. Uh, and I think that goes to just our policy. That's our policy right now. We're not backing down. We're not going to stop fighting Russia's aggression into Ukraine, and we're going to keep with our deals. And if Ukraine wants to get into NATO, so be it. They're a sovereign nation.
I may have lost that caller. Can you hear me, Fort Duck? And maybe he had a phone call coming. All right, we'll move it on. That's the question we're pondering on today. Here is that if this comes down to a possible full out incursion, not between Russia and the Ukraine, using with America having a proxy war with Russia, but what about a full blown war where you actually have Russians and Americans actually shooting at each other? Do you believe the American populace has the stomach for a war with an adversary at that level? I mean, keep in mind, we just ended the Iraq and Afghanistan, the entire conflict in that region, 2000 what? Really, with the first year of the Biden administration. So that just really ended in 2021 when we officially left Afghanistan. Does America have the stomach, the tolerance for another war of that significance this soon? All under the span of one president. That's what we're talking about. Anyway, going back to the box, Russia can't even beat Ukrainian soldiers. Well, Chicago 312. They're not fighting the Ukrainian soldiers. It would be like you fighting an 80-year-old in a wheelchair right before somebody hands her an AR-15. You can't beat an 80-year-old in a wheelchair? Well, hell no, if she got an AR-15 in her hand. The fact is, somebody is arming that 80-year-old woman. That's why Russia is having so much trouble with the Ukrainians, is because somebody is giving that old lady weapons. Ukraine is getting crushed right now. The Western media is lying like crazy. Seymour, listen, if you believe the Ukrainians are being crushed, fair enough. We expected that to happen the day Russia invaded them. But nevertheless, we have a year later, whereas Russia has only conquered a very small geographic area of the Ukraine. How could anyone see this as the Ukrainians are being crushed? They've survived an entire year. An entire year that this is going on. Do you think Vladimir Putin predicted that if he takes on Ukraine a year later, this is where he would be? And I'm aiming that comment also at many folks who suggest that President Biden looks weak on the world stage. Without Biden, would this have happened? Without Biden, would the Russians be facing this much resistance, as he says, not being able to beat Ukrainian soldiers? All right, going back to the box. We'll keep it moving with Hooper Cooper. Welcome back, Hooper. If our word is not respected, we are nothing. Cal, hang on a second, Hooper. Then, Cal, in regards to if our word is not respected, we have nothing. Have you ever heard of the phrase Indian giver? That was created because America's word is not respectable. Good afternoon, Hooper.
What's going on? Glad to talk to you again, man.
Absolutely a pleasure. So, do you agree with what Biden is doing in that region, in Eastern Europe?
No, I don't.
What do you think he should, when Vladimir Putin went into the Ukraine, if you were advising the president, what would you have told him to do?
I would I would have just left everything the way it was, because when Trump was in there, man, it wasn't a heated situation. It's just bad because this, his conversation and his words about what America will not do, and we won't back down, is just making it worse. And we spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of money over there,
Yeah.
and we
War is
spent.
not cheap. Yeah, war is not cheap. So if so what you're suggesting is President Biden should have sat out and let that one go, as let the chips fall where they may.
That's correct. because, like I said, this war that's going on over there is actually a lesson. The Chinese is learning what Russia is doing for Taiwan. This is just a strategic lesson for those guys of what to do, what not to do, and how the America would take it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but
That's
yeah,
just
but in terms of China, considering going into Taiwan, well, first of all, Taiwan, I believe, is a member of NATO, so it's a step up. Second of all, the assistance we're giving the Ukrainians is by no means as much as we actually could. I mean, we haven't even given them aircraft. So the amount of assistance we're giving them, there are a lot more levels to it that we could, that we could consider that we're not doing.
right. I think, like I said, we when Trump was in and he had everything in place, that was to lay things to the rest. I think that they wouldn't have invaded Ukraine if Trump was still in office, for the simple fact Trump is a businessman, and at the same time, he know what strings to pull and what strings not to pull, and he know that once the he knew that once uh, Russia went into Ukraine, then China was going to look towards Taiwan, which was Taiwan is what is mega to us as far as that concerned, and that was a whole thing of bargaining, not going into Taiwan. And absolutely, after they went into Ukraine and started, that was all China was doing, is sitting there just taking notes, and all these
Well, let
tariffs.
me ask you this then. So if Biden had taken your advice and let that one go as it may, do you think the Ukraine would still be fighting at this point if Biden did not provide them assistance?
No, they wouldn't still be fighting.
It would be
No,
over with.
it would have been over with. It'd been
So
over.
I mean, obviously you're I don't see, I'm assuming you're not a fan of Biden. You don't, right?
No, 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 I'm not. No, I'm not.
So the reason I'm asking you that is this: if Biden had done what you're suggesting, did not go into the Ukraine or did not get involved in that conflict, and Putin had taken over the Ukraine, which you're suggesting the fight would already be over with, how would we view Biden under the guise that since you got in office, Putin has attacked the Ukraine and become a bigger, stronger nation? How would we view Biden with that happening under his watch?
We just coming out of a war. We pulled out when we shouldn't have pulled out. We spent more money over there than we're spending over here. But yeah, I think it's about even. But at the same time, we're our country is going broke, and
Yeah, yeah,
who's
I
advancing
get
off of
your,
this war?
I get your point. You're giving me reasons why we shouldn't go over there. A lot of folks agree with you, but I'm asking the question: if Vladimir Putin became a stronger leader and Russia expanded by taking over the Ukraine, how would we view Biden with that happening under his watch?
That's what we would give him props. Stay out of other people's backyard.
We would give Biden props for Russia becoming a bigger, stronger nation under his watch.
Hey, that's the way it is. I,
So,
I can't, I
so
can't, I can't give you anything other than that. I mean, it's just like it's just like you cutting your grass. If you cut your grass and you go past your fence and cut the other neighbor's grass, you're not gonna own it. You're not gonna own the other neighbor's grass. If they got
right,
a military over there and they have stuff over there, it's okay. It's okay to give them some help with NATO. You understand what I'm saying? But
right.
as far as the United States bending over backwards to push themselves and leave their back door open,
But we don't
what do
want to
you
talk
what,
about leaving the back door open. But let's take what you just said, not helping them out to this extent, but maybe helping them out a little bit. Essentially still leaving the Ukraine to ultimately fall. Okay, maybe they wouldn't have failed immediately, but in a few months because we have given them such a, as you said, much less assistance. Russia eventually takes over, and now Biden has sent over, instead of hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe he only sent them 10 billion. and they fell in a couple months to Russia. And now 10 billion American dollars have fallen along with the Ukraine. How do we judge Biden?
Well, it'd be pretty poor, but at the same time, what other countries that are in the United Nations, UN rather, NATO, is supporting and sending equipment and stuff over there other than the U.S.?
Well, Poland has taken in like 2 million refugees. Would you be happier if we didn't send any money to the Ukraine but took in 2 million Ukrainians?
Well, we do it every day.
2 million. We take them in and give them residency.
We've been we The United States have been giving residency to people all over this world, man, even from
Okay.
Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan
So
for
in other words,
years.
the answer is yes. You would have preferred we take in 2 million Ukrainians as opposed to giving aid.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I got to move it on, but just wanted to get clarity. So you believe that if Biden had not interfered and Russia conquered the Ukraine, we would have given Biden props for letting Putin have the Ukraine. You said we would have given him props.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have went 75-80% total loss. It wouldn't have.
All right, fair enough. Come on back through anytime, man. I appreciate you coming through.
Gotcha.
All right. Obviously, like I say on every broadcast, I don't ban, block, or censor anyone for their commentary. Whether I agree with you or not doesn't mean a damn thing. I always respect your right to free speech. Now, clearly, me and the last caller does not agree. I don't see any way in hell that Putin could get bigger, stronger. Russia could conquer the Ukraine, and you would have folks, particularly on the right side of the aisle, giving Biden props for Russia becoming a bigger, stronger nation. I think that would fall into more evidence that they believe he is a weak leader on the world stage. You're so weak that Putin became stronger under your watch. But yet my last caller said they would have given him props. Okay, fair enough. All right, let's move it on. You got the best laugh on TikTok. I appreciate that, Swift Dog. Always a pleasure. As I say always, folks, it's always good. You guys can be anywhere you want to be on this app. The fact that you're rolling with your boy, I'm honored by that. And by the way, tap the damn screen. Show your boy some love. 60,000 likes, 800 plus of us in here. We could make that happen if you don't let your thumbs be lazy. Going back to the box. I hate having to hold this damn tablet up with my white shirt. I can't read any of the names. We'll keep it moving with Greg's house. I believe he's been holding on for program. Ukrainians like Afghanistan that just rolled over and gave up big difference. Well, if we had supplied the Afghani people with the type of weaponry we're giving the Ukrainians, I think they would have fought back a lot harder. Greg's house, good afternoon.
What's up? Happy Tupac Tuesday to those who celebrate. But yeah,
Wasn't expecting that.
yeah.
So Biden's intervention in Eastern Europe, you believe that's a good thing, or should Biden have been hands off?
I mean, of course, it's a good thing. The last caller saying that they would give him props is a total. That, like you said, that's a total. They wouldn't give him props. They would criticize him more. They'd call him weak. They'd do all the stuff that they do at the border and all that good stuff. So when it comes to Ukraine, essentially what we've done is the United States has weakened Russia without really having any troops on the ground. And what that has done is that has actually made Biden stronger on the world stage. So you've got supplies completely in shambles in Russia. I mean, their tanks are not even up to par. They're horrific. I mean, they're broken down. Some of them don't even work, and they've lost hundreds of thousands of troops. So to say that Russia is somehow stronger and Biden is somehow weaker is a joke, because what we've done is we've dismantled Russia, who we thought was a superpower. We said, oh,
Yeah.
they have the biggest army in the world. They're so strong. And Trump rolled over and gave Putin whatever he wanted because, Putin was his daddy. So basically, what happened was then we roll in there with Biden. Biden says, I want the smoke. He says, I'm not playing around with this. I want all the
Yeah,
smoke
yeah.
right now.
That's a really good way of putting it. Biden certainly appears to have said, I want the smoke. But let me ask you this. How do you feel about folks, particularly my beloved MAGA, suggesting that under Trump, this whole invasion would not have happened? You think there's any validity to that?
Well, of course, because Trump would have given Putin whatever he wanted, 100% of what he wanted. He would have said, you can have Ukraine, you can take Poland, you can take whatever you want, because that is what he did. And unfortunately, we don't have those transcripts. Again, I said this before. He had a private meeting with Vladimir Putin, and he
Yeah.
told the transcript writer to get out of the room. So we don't know what they talked about at all. We have no information. So everybody that talks about transparency and all that good stuff, we don't know what the hell he was giving them. So no, Biden is showing strength in a way that I guess conservatives don't know how to understand. Right? They
Mm.
love to crush him at the border. They love to say that he's weak because fentanyl is getting seized at record rates at the border. So that must mean he's doing bad stuff at the border, right? It's not working. So they love to have this. They like to play these games where they have, weak Biden, sleepy Joe. But
Okay, but
Joe's
I
kind of
gotta
kicking
ask you
ass
this
right now.
though. Yeah, but I gotta ask you this. How do you feel about folks suggesting that as opposed to going to Kyiv and going to Poland, you should have went to Ohio? Do you think it makes Biden look bad in any way for not going? Because obviously we've had some
The
major issues. I
governor,
think two major things have happened in Ohio, but clearly the spill. How do you view that?
the governor doesn't want anybody in Ohio. He has said, I don't want aid. I'm not going to take it until the investigation is over. There are 7 investigations going on right now in Ohio. We have 7 federal agencies investigating what happened there, right? So, what is Biden going to do? Go there and say, "Hey guys, I'm really sorry. I'd love to give you aid, but your governor won't let me give it to you." And then basically going there for a photo op. That's what Trump is doing. He's going there for a photo op. He is going to take a picture
Well,
and
but,
act
but
like
they
he
all
is.
do that. Come on now, you know they all do that.
I
We
mean,
got a picture of
sure,
George
sure.
W. Bush flying over Hurricane Katrina, and they're taking a picture of him staring out the window on Air Force One. They all do it for a photo op. I get that part.
And the problem is, the only critique I have of the Biden administration is I wish that Pete Buttigieg would be on TV explaining things better. Um, I think he's a great communicator. So what he needs to do is he needs to be on TV basically saying, this is what's going on, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to help, right? So that is a weakness there. But
Mhm.
Trump going to survey playing fake president, this is like what Nixon did. Like when he lost his election, he went over to like China. He lost his election like JFK. And it's the Roger Stone playbook. Pretend like you're president, wear a fake seal on and go over there and throw paper towels. I mean, what is he going to do in Ohio?
Well,
Seriously.
he's going to secure that state for him in 2024. That's what he's
I mean,
probably going to do.
that's the fallout for the Democrats. They could actually go there and try to win Ohio back. So I think they dropped the ball on that a little bit. But one last thing I wanted to say was about the war, right? So everybody's saying,
Sure.
what happens if Putin nukes the United States or China nukes? None of that's going to happen. Zero. It
We
will not
hope not.
happen.
We
It
hope
won't,
not. Right.
because all
Okay.
of these leaders are narcissists, right? They need to be alive. They are rich. They're not going to kill themselves. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? They're
You
not
know,
going to.
I want to agree with that, but when I see the actions of Kim Jong Un, who's literally begging to be shot, When I see I've seen the actions of a few leaders. I mean, Saddam Hussein, they pretty much told him they were going to kill him. You know, he could have came out forward and made a deal, but he kept running and ultimately got hung. I mean, some of these leaders, I don't know if they have that urge to stay alive like you're talking about. Some of these guys
Right.
do some crazy shit.
And I certainly hope that when Trump's in Ohio for his photo, that he apologizes for lifting the safety regulations on the Norfolk Southern trains that allowed them to put money over safety. So I really hope that he apologizes to the Ohio community.
All right, fair enough. I got to move it on, Greg.
Anyway,
You
I'm
know
here
we
for all
do
the
this.
smoke. I'm here for all the smoke today. So have a good day.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. In the comments. By the way, folks, I had not heard of that. Somebody let me know in regards to the governor of Ohio suggesting that he doesn't need the Washington administration to come to his state because obviously President Biden is getting his ass chewed off for going to Eastern Europe and not Ohio. But if the governor stepped forward and made it clear that he didn't want that type of, attention from Biden in his state, then you can't criticize Biden for not going if the governor suggested he not come there. But I'd like to see you guys in the comments on that one. Native Americans have been poisoned too through pipelines. I've heard that he refused help, says HRB. This is the first I'm hearing of that. He would have loved, wait a minute, he would have told Trump no if he didn't want that attention. I don't get that when nobody's here. He's doing it to make Biden. Oh, you mean in Ohio? He's doing it to make Biden look inattentive. Well, yeah, we know anything that Trump is doing in reference to Biden is to make Biden look bad. Biden is his opposition. I mean, shit. As far as I can tell, Trump has attacked Biden, DeSantis, and Nikki Haley all in the last week or so. So Trump is back on the warpath. Let's keep it going. We'll make it happen with Taylor Girl. Appreciate you holding. I appreciate all you folks holding. Tap the screen. Shit, 70,000 likes is quite possible. Still 700 plus of us in here. Taylor Girl, I don't know what's taking place here. TikTok looks like it's hesitating to bring on the next guest. Is on that Eastern tail. Vladivostok, I cannot pronounce that Eastern or Russian word there. Vladivostok is on that Eastern tail. Don't know what that means. Trumpers and Republicans chew out Biden no matter what he does. Michael, well, in regards to this particular incursion over in Eastern Europe, yeah, there's no win for Biden. If Biden sits this one out and lets Russia win, he's weak on the world stage. Putin used the Biden presidency to take over the Ukraine. That's what folks would say. Biden going in and helping the Ukrainians, well, now he's wasting money that could be given to veterans and homeless. There is no positive way, if you're looking at it from a perspective of Republicans, conservative, and MAGA, that Biden could have handled what happened in the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. No matter what he did, was going to be doing the wrong thing. Because at the end of the day, they believe under Trump, it would never have happened at all. So it happened under Biden, and no response that he rendered was going to be the right one. Going back to the box, I don't understand what's happening with Taylor Girl, so we will move it on. Eve Inga Snow. We got some new folks. See if this one works. I don't know what the hell's going on with the app today. Name one thing Biden did good. Well, right now he's saying Ukraine if we continue this conversation. So right now, that certainly qualifies.
Hey,
Hey, who do we have here?
I'm Eve, obviously
Okay, I
from
don't know what.
Russia.
Yeah, I can't see you in the box. So you said obviously from where?
Russia.
Oh, you're from Russia. What is your country doing? What is your boy doing?
Well, I don't even know where to start. You know, you asked so many questions, and some of them were so nice. But the people coming into the boxes, it's like, not everybody knows politics. Not everybody gets it. As far as I'm concerned, if you want to get politics, you have to be a little bit hood. in order to understand it. You have to live the streets because they do
Right.
the
So let
same
me
thing.
ask you this question then. Let me ask you this
Yeah,
question then. Being from Russia, do you support the actions of Vladimir Putin?
absolutely. Absolutely. With all due respect, absolutely. We had no choice. We waited for 8 years to save our brothers and sisters in Donbass and Lugansk. Not to mention the fact that this war didn't start a year ago, it started a long time ago. Ever since BlackRock purchased parts of Ukraine. Zelensky said it himself. You can Google it, you can find
Oh.
out. It's not even a secret. So the fact that the
So
United
so
go ahead.
so because Putin is not even calling this a war. He's calling it some type of special mission. Do you see this as an actual war?
At some point it will, unless
But not yet.
Europe and
Currently, right now, you don't see it as a
not
war.
yet, not yet, but we're heading down there. We're heading down there. The minute Germany started sending tanks, it almost like it's forgotten what happened during World War II. I mean, we're going there once again, 80 years after. And that's a sad thing. Because the fact that
So what is the
Nazis
goal?
exist in
What is
Europe up
Putin? What
until
is
this
Putin's
day, this
goal
is
here?
the biggest fact.
What is the goal of Putin in this event?
To throw the government of the Ukraine at this moment. The government who does not let her people speak, live, eat, every single one of them with a lot of money in their pockets. It's like a laundering machine for the United States and NATO. Because if you think that we have any sort of accountability where the money is going, you don't know. Who is going to give you your money back? The grandchildren of the grandchildren of the grandchildren of Ukraine? In the meantime, your country does not take care of her own people, forgetting the
Mm.
fact that you have soldiers with PTSD who needs desperate help. You just came out of Iraq, which we already knew there was no reason to go into Iraq when Bush did it. There was no nukes there. How many soldiers the United States lost? Isn't that a
Over
painful thing to
over six
say?
thousand. Let me interrupt you and just ask this. I mean, you can let me know. You don't even have to tell me, but I'm gonna ask you: are you located in America right now, or are you somewhere else abroad?
No. I live in Israel. But I
Okay,
was
all
born
right,
in Russia. I still have family in Russia. I'm a journalist, so I have a lot of info.
all right, fair enough. So, at the end of the day, with Russia trying to, in your opinion, trying to overturn or get out the corrupt Ukrainian government, are they going to annex the Ukrainian and make it part of Russia, or what would be the end result if they meet their goal?
This is a very interesting question. Part of the Ukrainian people have no problem joining Russia. They just want to live in peace. The other part, in fact, unfortunately, will have a very big issue with it because at the end of the day, people are not forgetful. So we will have to handle a situation like having enemies at your backyard.
Right. But some people in a country can't. I mean, because Zelensky is the leader of that country. He is the one that supposedly makes the decisions for that country. Just like currently Biden is the leader of our country. If you have some Biden detractors in America that want us to become part of, say, Russia or part of Canada or something like that, Canada can't invade America because a few people want to be part of Canada. I mean, it's up to the government. The government of Ukraine does not want to be part of Russia. Does that not matter?
Obviously, it does, but when you say a few, how many is a few?
Enough to keep fighting.
Apparently so, because
Yeah.
the end goal for us was to take over back Donetsk, Lugansk, etc., and Donbass. But when we realized during the fight, during this invasion, that we don't stand a chance to get those people out and let them live in peace, we had to move on. Because currently, you have to understand something. Currently, other than the Ukrainian soldiers, you have soldiers from the United States. You have soldiers from Poland. You
Yeah.
have soldiers from Britain, and you also have soldiers by Al Qaeda. Al
Mm.
Qaeda, yeah. I just said that.
So, so how do you respond to folks who suggest that the Ukraine was not the only goal of Russia, that Russia was ultimately going to try to recreate the Soviet Union, and you got other NATO member countries in that area that are afraid that Russia was not going to stop at the Ukraine? How do you respond to that?
I have a very simple question. Belarus, which I was born in Belarus back in the day. It
They're
was the
allies. They're
SSR.
Russian allies, right? Belarus is a Russian ally, correct?
Exactly. So if you want to make Soviet Union back again, you will start with your friends, not with your enemies. It'll give you more power. It'll give people an
Okay.
example. See, other people are joining us. Let's be the great power again. No, we started with Ukraine because we saw that Ukraine is on the offensive. We couldn't let them join NATO because it would defy the Minsk agreement.
All
And I
right.
will
Fair
ask
enough.
you another question. Since when
Sure.
somebody gives something to someone for nothing? How many millions?
Oh,
Not to mention the
well,
20 million that America lost.
we're going to certainly get something out of it. I totally agree with the notion that America does not give something for nothing. What are we going to get out of it? We're going to get a NATO member country. Ukraine is going to be an ally right on Russia's border. So if we ever need to get into some type of conflict or need to launch an intelligence or surveillance mission, we now are that much closer to Moscow. That is what we're going to get out of that.
Perhaps, perhaps, maybe. But at this point, Russia can't hold back. We
Yeah.
can't allow ourselves to hold back because this is the fight of our existence. We won't allow ourselves to go into another war on our soil like it happened during World War II. We
You
lost
believe the you
26
believe the
million
Russian
soldiers
You believe the Russian Ukrainian conflict is a fight for Russian existence?
by a proxy, obviously, because Zelensky just said, we need nukes. We need to nuke Russia. Not to
So
mention
let
the
me
fact that
so let me
once,
ask you this. Let me ask you this. If
okay,
Russia had never invaded the Ukraine, what would be happening right now?
there is never would have invaded. Like I said before, it was planned ahead. There was no way for Ukraine not to do this. No way in hell. Bigger people, powerful people who invested a lot of money, a lot of resources in order for Ukraine to fall, to make Russia fall.
All right,
That's
fair
it.
enough.
That's
All
it.
right,
It's,
Eva.
it's, it's a very simple thing.
All right.
With that being said, I just have to say one thing.
Appreciate you coming in.
One last
Sure,
thing,
go ahead.
if you don't mind. I just really want to say to the entire people who are watching us here, I am Russian, but I am really, really heartful about what's going on in the Ukraine because there are wonderful people in Ukraine. They do not deserve this. They didn't choose it. They're just people that I wish them all the best in the world. Let them live, and I wish that we can finish this and move on because we need peace in this world at this moment for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And
having
yet
me.
I'm seeing footage that they're bombing schools, bombing apartment buildings, stuff that is not war targets. Why would Russia do that?
Let me ask you this question. Other than CNN and mainstream media, who is owned by BlackRock, by the way, have you seen any freelance reporters down there in Ukraine? No,
Yeah, I see.
there is none.
Well,
Ukraine
yeah.
doesn't allow it.
Let's be clear. The citizens in Russia are not allowed to access YouTube because I follow folks like Ellie from Russia. That's a very popular girl that's over in Russia that does YouTube videos. Some of those folks are having to use virtual private networks because Vladimir Putin cut off their access to the mainstream world. Why is that?
Well, I have a lot of friends in Moscow who do use YouTube. That's a very interesting question you just asked. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll check it out. I won't lie. I can't say nothing about it because I don't know because I have friends using YouTube.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Something to
Come
check.
on back anytime. I'll certainly like to talk to you again in the near future. So come on
I
back
would
through.
love it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Moving the program on. TikTok is acting a bit flaky here. What did I say there? I appreciate you folks that have been holding on. I'll keep it moving. But yeah, if this is the type of dialogue you enjoy having, civilized dialogue with both sides of the aisle, civilized dialogue, feel free to follow the program. 11:30 a.m. Central is when we're generally here. By the way, tap the screen. Perhaps we'll make 90,000 likes. 800 plus of you guys in here been holding on strong. Do appreciate that. But go to the comments before I go back to the box. No Russians, please. Josie Wells, if you've been around long enough, I believe that is Call of Duty. No Russian. Maybe I'm talking about something different. He got that government Wi-Fi. Well, something in regards to if I'm choppy or something of that nature. I don't know why. Sometimes on TikTok it does it. Sometimes it does not. I'm under T-Mobile 5G, so I apologize for any of that. Right-wing answer to anything that contradicts their narrative is always fake news media. Lizzie, I do see that often. Let me go back to the box. It is, let me see, who was in here? Craig Smith, I believe I saw you in here for quite a while, so I do appreciate you folks holding. Is this guy? I am a liberal that really enjoys speaking to MAGA. I prefer MAGA. MAGA are my preferred guests. Nevertheless, I do lean left. Craig, good afternoon.
How you doing, that Tim?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So, were you listening to my last caller? I assume you were.
I sure was.
What do you think?
She made some good points, but I think it was a bunch of propaganda too.
Well, what do you think on Biden's interaction over there? Do you think he should have sat this one out?
Not necessarily. I mean, he is trying to bring peace over there, but I don't think he should have necessarily sat it out. I mean, okay, we having problems over here. We always having problems over here. I don't have a problem with them sending help to Ukraine. The problem that I had and the problem that I have, and I don't know how true this is, but the people that they've relocated, they are complaining about they are in places that is too many of this and it's too many of that, if you know what I mean.
What are you talking? You sound like you're confusing the immigrants coming across the southern border. What are
No,
you? I don't get what you're
no,
talking about.
I'm talking about the immigrants that they went to the UK, and I think it's a few that might have came to the United States, but they are
Hey,
complaining.
hold on one second. Guides in 1896 in the comments says, "Bro, you skipped me 5 times because of my pick." I don't ban, censor, or block anyone, and I damn sure don't look at your pictures. TikTok moves your names around. You think I'm gonna skip you because of what's on your picture? I'm a black man with a liberal name and a MAGA hat. Your picture doesn't have anything to do with why I select you. Go ahead, Craig. That was a funny comment, but go ahead.
Well, like I was saying, the only problem that I have is that the people that they went to the Ukraine, they went to the UK, and I think they got a few in the United States too. They are complaining about the neighborhoods that they are in. Would you rather be in a neighborhood away from shelling, or would you rather be in the neighborhood that you was in when it was shelling?
Yeah, but is that
That's
a is that
crazy.
a whole lot of people complaining, or are we just picking out a
I
few
don't.
people?
I don't know. I mean, I have seen some of the video of them refusing certain people
Yeah, but
getting up. I mean, come on now. I
I,
mean,
I don't I don't think the average Ukrainian leaving a war zone where their entire apartment complex is getting blown up is complaining about their accommodations in these other
I
countries.
would hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
I would hope.
I have, I watch both mainstream media and I watch well, right now, Fox News is obviously dealing with their own problems with Dominion voting machines, but I do watch a lot of right wing media as well. And I'm not seeing a lot of Ukrainian refugees complaining about their accommodations. I mean, other than that, do you believe that what Biden did is the right thing to help these people?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
definitely, because for the simple fact, we all know what Russia is trying.
Appreciate that.
Russia.
So what about the other? Appreciate those sunglasses, Lou. So what do you? How do you feel about the woman that was on before, the Russian woman, suggesting that what Vladimir Putin is doing is for the benefit of Russian survival? Like they were in big trouble if they let the Ukrainians continue on their way. Do you see the Ukrainians having any form of aggression towards Russia in this?
Who attacked who?
Well, according to her, the attack from Russia was kind of a self-defense incursion of sorts.
I mean, you invade another country and that was a self defense. I mean, was they
Well,
going?
shit, we did this. We did the same thing with Iraq. Like
I mean,
he pointed out, we went into Iraq
and we
under the
were
guise
wrong,
that,
and we
huh?
were wrong for that. We were wrong for
Yeah, yeah.
we were wrong for that. So
I don't.
I mean, I'm not taking no sides in this. I mean, well, I am taking sides, but I'm just saying, uh, Russia came over the border, right?
True.
So what is that?
Well, there are these are some of the arguments I've heard. You can let me know what you think of them. One, the Ukrainians had bio labs, bio weapons labs in there. That's one of them. Next one is supposedly some influx of neo-Nazi culture. Next, they were trying to become members of NATO when NATO had promised Russia that they would not put a NATO member country on their border. These are some of the arguments that Russians are making for why they had to stop the Ukrainians. Do you buy any of that?
I mean, it could be true. I don't know. I mean, it could be true. I mean, I don't know because they only gonna tell us so much anyway.
That is true. That is true.
Only gonna
I
tell us.
don't disagree with that.
Well,
So
I
at the end of the day, you do believe it's a possibility that what Russia did was justified.
that's hard for me to say. Yeah,
That's what you, that's what you just kind
that,
of
no, I'm
you
saying
kind of just said
possibility.
that.
It's a possibility, but Russia
Yeah.
invaded Ukraine. Ukraine didn't invade Russia. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like the young lady said before, this been going on a lot longer than a year. So Russia has
True.
actually been in Ukraine for a lot longer than a year.
All right.
Ukraine just
Well,
won't. I mean,
last but not least, I gotta move it on. But
yeah,
before I let you go, how do you feel about the notion? Folks are suggesting that if Trump had won a second term, Russia would never have went into the Ukraine. Do you see any validity to that?
come on now. Trump would have let Russia walk in Ukraine. They would have walked in Ukraine.
So it would have happened, but it would have been over with already.
Yeah, it'd have been over with already. Come on now.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah,
had.
you're not the only one to say that. All right, Craig, I
All
got to
right,
move it on. I
yeah,
do
man.
appreciate you holding, man.
Appreciate you.
Uh, All right. All right, let me move it on. Okay. Looking in the comments. Yep. Um, hate to break it to you, but Putin lies. Yeah, they all do. I mean, I don't know any American politician that is honest either. So, but yeah, is Putin lying about things? I would suggest right off the bat the reference of how Putin referred to what he's doing is a lie. Even when I spoke to the Russian woman, she was still suggesting that what's going on between Russia and the Ukraine is not even a war yet. Her statement was it's getting there. Somehow what's going on between the Russians and Ukrainians at this point is not a war? Then what the hell is a war? There are tanks rolling through town. There are aircraft firing missiles and dropping bombs. The death toll is off the chain. You got millions of refugees. What else would it take to make it become a war? But that's what Putin has done is downplayed what's taking place. All right, let me go back to the box. I seen in the comments there, we'll go to Joe and Ross. I see holding on there. Biden is taking a lot of flack, but also receiving a lot of accolades for what he's doing for the Ukrainians. But what about you, Joe? And do you see what Biden is doing as the right thing, or should he have sat this one out?
I guess it's something from your previous guest. I believe Biden. He's doing the right thing, because we have to, you know, uh, stand up for our agreements with them a long time ago. So I guess so because I look at it the same way as most Americans look at because I look at the condition that we in is like, hey brother, what you gonna do for us? You
Yeah.
serious, doing a lot of things over there, but and we don't want to be the world police, and I think that's what a lot of Americans see. We trying to be the world police, but we're not. We just doing our
So, but
agreements with them.
how do you respond to that? Because that is the reason folks are saying Biden should have sat this out. Is that America is not the world's police? How do you respond to something like that?
Well, I respond like this here. Most Americans hate to see children and women to be murdered. And
Mm.
that part
Well,
of that part of our compassion that we don't like to see that, and we want to be involved, and this is the result of it. Because if
well,
this was happening.
speaking of Americans losing lives, I want to run this from Biden because Patriot 1776, obviously the year, is saying in the comments Biden is going to get a lot of Americans unalive, get a lot of Americans killed. Do you see this potentially leading to a full-out American Russian conflict where there is a lot of American casualties? Do you see any possibility to what this person is saying that Biden is going to get a lot of us killed? Do you think that is likely to happen?
Uh, and, okay, I'm gonna say it like this here because I really don't know, but I believe that within certain governments and especially world powers, they have a lot of posturing, and so I believe that
Right.
we might not get into a war. It's just a bunch of posturing, and if that's what it is to try to because it's playing politics. And see I see a lot of people they look at certain media or they look at Facebook or whatever propaganda memes they're supposed to get involved with, and they come with the extreme part, but they don't realize
Yeah,
we've been down this road before. We know the posturing. Russia
true.
ain't.
So I, I don't disagree. Go ahead.
uh, no, I'm saying this here. Russia will not dare attack America. They know the consequences by that. Russians don't want his own people killed.
We
Even Americans, we
we
don't want our
want to
own people
believe.
killed.
Right. You're talking mutually assured destruction. We certainly, I
Yeah.
can totally understand it. But let me give you this. In the comments, Taylor said, I feel very unsafe under Biden. Do you feel, do you feel safer under Trump than Biden, or do you feel safer as Biden with Biden as president than Trump?
I'm
I
gonna give you, I'm gonna
gotta
give
ask.
you, I'm gonna give you the reality of this, here, brother. Uh,
All right.
I don't care who's in office. I'm okay. I'm okay. You see, what it is, you see, we all back in our own corners, don't even realize that we safe anyway. I don't care who's in office. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat. And
Okay, let
quite.
me rephrase it. Okay, let me rephrase it then. I get your point, but let me rephrase it. Who do you think would be more likely to get us into a military conflict, Biden or Trump?
Oh man, that's a good one. I had to scratch my head on that, but if you would have seen me, and I got a bald head myself. But look here, but
Okay. All right, Biden or
I,
Trump? Who's more likely to go off the handle first, Biden or Trump?
I, I think none of them really. Biden that's showing pause to try to make himself look strong. Trump, uh,
Okay, so
Trump,
you don't.
Trump, Trump got more backdoor deals than and then we got cream cakes out here right now. But see, that's but that's what I see because see, we have to think about what that guy who his name was the a shogi person who got killed in one of
The
them
who?
conflicts. A shogi, the reporter.
Oh yeah, the guy they chopped up and dismembered over in
Yeah,
Turkey, the Saudis. Yeah, you talking about
yeah.
Khashoggi? Yeah, what about him?
See, Trump turned his head on that.
Yeah, he
He didn't
sure
get in,
did
he
turn his
didn't.
head.
Yeah, he didn't get involved. And that's why I
Yeah.
would have think Trump would have did with Ukraine and Russia. He would turn his head on that. Because see,
Wow,
he have a favorite. Him and Putin have a little favoritism with each other. And Putin probably would have told him, "Look, at man, I'm gonna go here and take care of this business." Said, "I want you to turn your head for me." And then they would have came out a little propaganda. They would have came out a little propaganda skit and said, we ain't gonna get involved in their business, but we're
wow.
gonna allow the women and children be murdered.
So, looking at both presidents, who do you think projects the strongest America on the world stage? One, based on how you said Trump might have acted, based on how Biden acts. Which one of these presidents makes America look stronger on the world stage?
Mm.
Totally different way they run their administration. So it obviously is not the
Yeah, I
same.
don't. I can't really say because Trump play a strong man, but he's kind of weak in the world's eyes at the same time. He talk a crazy talk, but he got a little bit of heart too. I see that in
Fair enough.
Trump.
All right. All right. You think he's the best guy going forward in 2024?
Nah, he need to stay out. He need to sit this out this time. He need to go ahead and go home, sit down, give him a sip of coffee or something. Enjoy his grandkids and stuff like
What
that.
about
I,
Biden? You okay with a
I
Biden
think I think
reelection?
Biden need to do the same thing. But Biden need to go sit his butt on down. So I mean these guys are too old, man. We need some young blood in office right now. They
That's exactly what Nikki Haley said yesterday. So who do you see going forward that would probably be the best to take the reins over?
I don't know. I don't see no candidates out there right now. And the only candidates I see out there is what's it, Ron DeSantis?
Mm-hmm.
He's no good for us right now because this dude is banning straight up Black history out of his state, and
Mm,
I can't see a world with this brother being in office because it seems like he's not for all the people. He's like, man,
yeah.
you got some hidden agendas and some white supremacy tendencies on your side right now.
Ouch.
I
Yeah.
can't trust I can't trust you right now. It's like damn.
Ouch.
It get a little hard, but I like the man. I like some of his policy, but some of that stuff, man, he be doing. I'm like, brother, you knocking yourself out the box before you even get there. Because,
Ouch. That's
so
definitely a
what?
conversation for future live on the Senate. But look, Joey, I gotta move it on, man.
All right,
Appreciate
brother.
it.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wow. That what he is suggesting in regards to Ron DeSantis down in Florida, that is the sentiment of a lot of African Americans, that Ron DeSantis appears to be trying to squelch the history of African Americans. Now, I understand folks who are not African American think otherwise, and you are entitled to that. But nevertheless, there is a lot of African Americans that believe that Ron DeSantis is trying to squelch the history of African Americans. And we'll see how that plays in politics coming up. All right, going back to the comments. Trump said those beautiful golden turrets will be destroyed by Putin. That's fact. Did he really say that? Yikes. Anyone banning books is on the wrong side of history. Stevie, and I do agree with that. I would like to see what is in the books that Ron DeSantis is getting involved in. So far, I'm watching right-wing media, and I watch a lot of right-wing media. I haven't seen where they're trying to ban, like, say, the Debbie Does Dallas DVD or something. I don't see anything crazy or heavily controversial that he's banning. I don't get why he is that deep in that, other than playing to a specific base. And to some degree, similar to what my last caller alluded to. I don't see any other reason why he would get that involved in that. You don't see many other governors doing anything near what he's doing. And he seems to be pretty damn passionate about getting involved in what children are being taught in schools down there. I would love to see the stuff he's taking out of schools. All right, let me go back to the box. It is. I don't know what happened with Taylor Girl, but it froze, and unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. But we'll keep it moving. My name is Kitten has been holding on. I see you in there, Mark. Appreciate you folks holding on. Hell, we got over 100,000 likes. Shit, maybe 120 if we keep your fingers going. Appreciate that. Tap the screen. Helps out the algorithm. As I always say, this is a MAGA friendly program. MAGA are my preferred guests. Liberals are welcome too. Kitten,
What's
welcome
going
back.
on, man? Hey, so, Russia invaded Crimea February 20th in 2014. Ukraine was in talks with the EU about a major trade deal since about 2012. Their current president, Yakovich wanted to get rid of that deal and enter a bigger trade deal with Russia, who Ukraine was a huge trade partner under him, and he wanted to do away with the deal with the EU that they had been working on for 2 years. And then what happened is because he wanted to do that, the people rose up and overthrew the government and voted in a new leader. So
Zelensky.
for the Russian to say that they had no support from the people it's called the Revolution of Dignity. It happened in 2014. The people rose up and overthrew the government because they didn't want to have closer ties to Russia.
So the people of Ukraine felt that their government was selling them out, and you're suggesting they overthrew the current government, and that's where Zelensky came in.
Correct. And then after that happened, Russia invaded Crimea. So what you have here is a dictator in Russia who saw that he was losing his grip even more on Ukraine, and he decided at this point it's now or never, and he went through. He went through completely at this point because Vladimir Putin's sole job, his sole goal in life is to reform the USSR as a capitalist oligarchy. That's his goal in
So
life.
now I had a woman on a few callers back from that was Russian. She said she was Russian. Now she is suggesting that there was a hell of a lot of corruption in the Ukraine under Zelensky, and that Russia is doing this kind of as a measure of self-defense.
How are you going to say that there was a ton of corruption under Zelensky when he had barely any time to govern properly?
Yeah.
Almost immediately after he took office, they're involved in a major. The guy's amazing. He's a
Yeah.
brand new president, and he's involved in one of the most major crises in modern history.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man! People are insane, dude.
So how do you feel about the notion that if Trump had been given a second term, none of this would even be happening?
So let me put something to you Republicans in chat here. Ukraine leads to the Mediterranean Sea through the narrow straits. All major trade in the world happens by sea. If you allow Russia to continue and own the narrow straits, guess what? America loses power over the trade routes in the Mediterranean Sea. You Republicans have no idea about country self-interest or military tactics. You all are absolutely blind.
So at the end of the day, you believe what Biden is doing is right.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't, as a liberal, I'd certainly support what he's doing. I don't like where it's headed, but I guess we have to ask this question. If it does look like it will end up being Russia versus America, are we willing to defend the Ukraine up to and including World War III?
I mean, I don't see that happening, my dude. Russia's been losing their pants the whole time through a proxy war. Unless Russia
Yeah, but what about
escalates.
but wait. What about the idea that China has now suggested that they're considering arming the Russians? So now we're going to be dealing with Chinese weapons in
I mean,
addition to.
I would love to see that happen, my dude. Do you know how much money China gets from us? I mean, their interests are so closely tied to ours. For them to side with Russia is practically economical suicide for them. So we'll see how that
Well,
goes.
I don't know. So you don't see China getting involved at all?
No, I don't see that happening. First of all, Russia's going downhill. Okay, Putin's taken all the money out of the economy. They are a failing nation. Their military is weak. They can't even take on a country the size of Ukraine. That's a losing bet for them. Meanwhile, America is not thriving, but we're doing better than Russia. We give them billions of dollars in trade every year. All of the factory work that we have done is over there. For them to side with Russia over us would be literally economic suicide.
So if what you're saying is true, then would it be safe to say you also believe that there's no chance that China's going to take Taiwan?
Now, you see, that's not so. China literally has no interest in Ukraine. None. They don't care about Ukraine. Okay?
Now
China,
Taiwan is a NATO member country, though.
yeah. So now you're talking about something that has shamed China. China feels shame over the fact that Taiwan is its own nation, right? And that is a big scar on their poised, their position in the world, right? Because you have this little country that defied the big bad Chinese government now. So yeah, and plus Taiwan is lit when it comes to microchip processing and different resources that they have. So yeah, China has a serious vested interest in Taiwan. They do not have a serious vested interest
So
in Ukraine.
okay, but you said they wouldn't go head to head with us in Ukraine because it's suicide. But now
Yeah,
when it comes to Taiwan, you're saying they're willing to do it because they have a vested interest. It's still suicide.
it is correct. And we'll have to see if that vested interest is worth the suicide, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because
fair
it is,
enough.
it's economic. There's no denying that it's economic suicide. I'm not proposing that it is. Imagine cutting off all trade with China altogether. Imagine that. Go ahead. It's economic
It
suicide, no
would
matter
make
how
the
you
it
look
would
at
make
it.
the price of it would make the price of goods goods and services in this country, particularly goods, for a minute skyrocket because
Of
a lot
course,
of
and
our
we would
shit
have a
is very
massive
cheap.
lack of production. I mean, guys, it's not going to happen. Now, whether it's worth it to them over Taiwan, well, I guess the ball's in China's court for that, isn't it?
Somewhat. I don't know if I would rule it out. But under Trump, none of this happens. You don't buy that.
If we didn't help Ukraine, you lose major military positioning throughout the world. You could potentially have a major trade partner in Ukraine that, again, has access to a major sea that leads to the entire world. I'm not just saying this because I feel it. The military is looking at this, and if you think they're not, you're a fool.
Fair enough. All right, kitten, you know what I got to do. Anytime, come on back through.
Later. Have a good one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Appreciate you holding. All right, looking in Tesla is bringing back factories and steel. All that from Elon Musk. And I don't know if that alone is going to do it. If Russia is that weak, then that would make them even more dangerous with nukes. Well, we know North Korea is not necessarily a strong country, and they're very dangerous. And many folks gave President Trump, number 45, a lot of credit and accolades for going over there and meeting with Kim Jong-un. I don't see currently at this day and age, at this time, I don't see how America benefited at all from Trump meeting with Kim Jong-un. And this is what I stated before, because there's no shortage of my beloved MAGA suggesting that under Trump, this Ukrainian-Russian event may not have happened. Now, that could be true. I don't know, because Trump and Putin had a much better relationship, obviously, than Biden or Hillary Clinton or even Obama. So it's possible that maybe it didn't happen. But like I stated before, Trump only gets a maximum of 8 years. We cannot have a country that everything is based on Trump being in power, because he's going to eventually be gone, just like with Kim Jong-un. Everybody was happy that President Trump met with Kim Jong-un and somehow he was making peace. Well, Trump is gone, and look what Kim Jong-un is doing. So clearly there was no permanent benefit from Trump meeting with him. We can't sit there and jump up and down and celebrate stuff that is incredibly temporary. Yay, Trump is in office. For the next 4 years, things will be great. Well, what happens when he leaves? If none of this stuff is permanent, then it's only a temporary, a temporary patch. And that's what's happening, is that a lot of things that my folks on the right celebrated under Trump, the minute he's out of office, is all gone. How many of you folks were really happy about the wall? Up to and including those who paid Steve Bannon money to get your name put on it. Well, where's the wall now? So if it's temporary, I don't see where the huge celebration is from. I really do not. And now that Trump has spent half of his time in Washington, he only gets a max of 4 more years. So we need to understand that we need permanent shit, not something we can celebrate for the next year or two. That's just, when it comes to conquering nations and things like that, 4 years is not a very long time. I mean, we were in Iraq for 20 damn years. I mean, Russia has been messing with Crimea since 2000, or Georgia rather, since 2008. 4 years is nothing. All right, going back to the box. It is, what did that say? Mark time. Let's make it happen. Good afternoon. Back to the pro. Mark time. Somebody says he will never make it back to the White House. Mark time. Do you think Trump has a chance of getting reelected? Because I've seen in the comments, Steve is claiming he will never make it back.
I mean, God willing, right? It's funny because so you know how I take notes, and so I've been around for I think like 8 callers or so. Because so my notes go all the way back to when you were talking about 8 years of Trump.
apologize. Apologize. I like TikTok moved the names all
Hey
around,
man,
but
I'm here for a
she got
good
that.
time,
Here you go.
and I'm here for a good time and a long time. So the idea that like I have this huge issue with like the normalization of Trump as a as a normal person or politician because he's just isn't. He's neither of those things. You know, he's been a larger than life kooky character ever since
Well,
his
what about the notion that he's not a typical politician? He's a businessman, and the country needs to be ran by a businessman.
well, now he's a politician.
Yeah.
And just the idea of like talking about him like that or like bringing him up into every issue. I mean, of course he is because he's the head of the Republican Party, whether they admit it or not. But the idea that like, because I think it was you who said that after 8 years of Trump, he'd have to be on his way out after 8 years. Well, it's like after 4 years, he, threw an insurrection and 60 court cases. So I don't know that he would peacefully
Let
leave.
me ask you something. This is off the topic, but in regards to what you said, after 4 years, he threw an insurrection.
Yeah,
I got no shortage of folks that are suggesting that. Well, first of all, they don't believe it was an insurrection, but they believe what happened on January 6th
yeah.
was instigated by someone else. Have you heard that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the narratives don't really make sense, right? Like they're either like patriots peacefully protesting or it was Antifa. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
We either like lock them up and throw away the key and charge them with seditious conspiracy, or you don't and investigate it, or you don't at all. So they need to kind of pick a lane on their lies and just stick to one. But the reason they have to jump around so much is they have to stay
You making
consistent
it.
with
Yeah, you
whatever.
make it.
Yeah,
I mean, I just brought that up because I hear folks saying that the FBI instigated what they did
right,
and
exactly.
carried out some things like. And my response is, if Trump told the crowd to go peacefully, how could Rayab, somebody they didn't know from Adam, convince them to do something that's 180 degrees of what the president just told them only moments ago? You
Exactly.
know, some dude they have no clue could actually make them do whatever they like he's a piper of sorts. It just yeah, it makes no sense to me. But
Right, exactly. Are we freeing these like patriots who are in jail, or was it Antifa? you know, like pick one. And same
give me
thing with
what you
with
got now.
the
What else?
the with on the Ukraine thing of like I also think that there's kind of like a talking out of both sides of your mouth situation with that because like you rightfully pointed out, if we had just let them steamroll one of our allies, and we were watching war footage of Ukraine just getting even more decimated than it already is, Biden would wear all the blame for that. So like the Republicans are kind of like the perfect opposition party because they're ready to complain about both sides of it. It's either we're doing too much or we're not doing enough.
We do the same thing, but I do want to point out, yeah, no matter what Biden did in regards to Russia and Ukraine, yeah, his detractors are going to find a way to
Right,
criticize.
right. And so to me, I'm just super skeptical of all these people who are like, oh, we're sending too much money over there. We could be like ending homelessness. Is like, y'all were quiet about homelessness before and you'll be quiet about homelessness after because I don't see any bills coming through to do anything about
What about
homeless.
Ohio? What about Ohio? Should Biden have went to Ohio instead of Eastern Europe?
I mean, it's not really something that he's over. There's how many different like workers' rights catastrophes every day? Like, is he going to go to every train collapse? Because there was one yesterday too, and
Yeah,
Mike DeWine doesn't want him there. So
I don't disagree with that.
I
So at
think
the end of the day, go ahead.
Oh, I just think there is something too about this moment of like Kamala Harris's speech of coming out of like we are in defense of Ukraine, and I think there is something maybe we don't necessarily know that's going on at this moment, or don't have the full picture of it because Biden's presence there is a statement. It is a we are defending. Well, I think it was the year anniversary of the war, right? Is why he's there.
Yep.
Yeah. So it is like a we stand firm, and like the U.S. president being in a war torn like capital, like the capital of a country being torn apart by war is a big statement. And I'm glad that he is doing it because I do understand this as like a fight for democracy, and it is a proxy war with Russia. We do
Yeah.
benefit from them looking embarrassed, and that's all they have been so far is embarrassed.
So how do you feel about folks suggesting that it is unlike Trump, it is Biden that looks weak on the world stage that projects American weakness? How do you? I get no shortage of folks suggesting that Biden makes us look weak.
Oh, I mean, those people are disconnected from reality. Like he's masterfully ran this NATO engagement, to rally the entire West to financially cut off Russia so fast, like they did, and then to again, kind of like because we do send I think like 85% of what goes to Ukraine, but getting Germany and Italy and other like fascist friendly countries, like getting Italy on board was crazy, or early on with like the financial stakes, and just to have everyone kind of working in concert in the West, because I think that is important, not even just for this war, but the future war with China. It's going to be great to not go up against them alone. We
You
want
said the
West.
future. You said the future war with China. You think we're going to ultimately end up in war with China?
I think the last caller was pretty astute on his the embarrassment of Taiwan. I think Taiwan is going to come to a head in both you and our lifetimes.
Wow, that's
So
scary.
I don't know what
Because
that looks like.
what happens with America, Taiwan's obviously a NATO member country. So if something happens, we know we are instantly at odds with China. And we
Yeah,
know we know what side they're going to be on.
right. If a person, well, I mean, Russia's going to be decimated. Their economy already is. Like, I'm surprised that there are still so many Russians, like your earlier guest, who just like simp for Putin and spit that propaganda. You know what my number one noticing is, and this is what I would leave the call with, which is just like it's remarkable to me how much pro Putin Russians sound exactly like MAGA because they repeat the same talking points about the war.
Well, they do like Tucker Carlson over there. So I got to move it on.
Yep,
Appreciate you doing that. All right.
appreciate you, man.
Uh, looking in the comments, by the way. What do we have?
Official military report came out. We wouldn't last a week in Taiwan because Biden gave so much away. What military report would say something like that? What military report would actually tell you that we wouldn't last a week? Iraq lasted more than a week against the United States. What nation could America take on that could defeat us within 1 week? And you're tacking that on to be an official military report? I mean, come on now. Make it a little bit easier. Make it a little bit more challenging than that. Come on now. Biden let Russia invade. Trump didn't. Leftists denied the most basic, well-known facts. That's an interesting point. Coming from Brian Frond in the comments says that, let me read that again. Biden let Russia invade. Trump did not. Leftists deny the most basic, well-known fact. Well, in regards to the suggestion that Biden let Russia invade, isn't that what many folks on the right, my beloved MAGA, is suggesting? That Biden should have kept his hands off, that we are not the world's police, that Biden should be using that money to help out the homeless and veterans? If he did what folks on the right are suggesting, he would be doing exactly what you just stated, letting Russia invade. So you're giving Biden criticism while admitting he did, in your opinion, what you wanted him to do. Let Russia invade. Do you realize the irony in the comment? And it also goes to state exactly what I suggested. That if Biden did nothing, and as you say, let Russia invade, you'd criticize him. You're criticizing him right now, even though he is actually fighting back. But your statement validates what I and many other callers have suggested, that if Biden took the advice of folks on the right, did not play the world's police, did not get involved in that event over there in Eastern Europe, that folks on the right would blame him for letting Russia take over the Ukraine. You're doing exactly that. All right, going to the box. Looking in the comments real quick, Jason says, Lord helps this guy. Makes no sense. Trump's administration was war-free for 4 years. Well, that's actually not completely true, Jason. I don't know if you remember the 59 tomahawks that Trump fired early in his administration into Syria? Do you refer to that as being war free? So I don't know if we totally agree with that. Now you can give your opinion on what you think happened from him firing those, but if you fire 59 Tomahawk missiles into a sovereign nation, you're not war free. Going into the box, Seymour Doolittle. Okay. Creative names. Let's keep it moving. Seymour Doolittle. Trump dropped the Moab, the MAB mother of all bombs. That is true too. That also happened under Trump's watch. The mother of all bombs. Seymour Doolittle. Good afternoon.
Hey, greetings. You're ramping this thing up. It's like it's
Apparently
been
so.
growing
By
and
the way,
growing
folks,
and growing.
my girlfriend used to say that. By the way, folks, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 115,000. I can't believe all of the love. You're right. They're hanging in there. Seymour, Doolittle. What
Yes,
do you
sir.
think?
I think it is. You're actually being neutral. That's the
I
key. You
try.
can have
I
both
still get
groups in
called an
here.
idiot. I still get called an idiot by my right wing followers and a sellout Uncle Tom by my left wing guys. I can't
Yeah,
win, man.
yeah. Just stay the course. It's all right.
I try. Appreciate
All
that.
right. Well,
Appreciate
first of
the
all,
accolade.
people are victims of the media. The media is not a friend of the United States citizens or internationally. So we learned some things. We talked finally to a Russian who actually seemed reasonable, that wasn't like inside of Russian propaganda only. She was living in an outside location in Israel. She brought
Mhm.
up we have BlackRock buying a bunch of land, and then we also have money laundering. You never hear that on any kind of Western media, right? But
Right.
it has been said by certain individuals about how corrupt Ukraine has always been. It's one of the most corrupt nations as far as money laundering before Zelensky, before I can't remember the last president. It's been like decades. Okay. The other thing you
But
don't
is
hear about,
Russia, when you talk about Ukraine being corrupt, and you're right, I've heard that over the years, but you ever heard the phrase pot calling the kettle black? Can Russia be the one to point out Ukrainian corruption?
no, well, that wasn't Russia. That was a Russian citizen that knows stuff about other things than Russian propaganda,
Yeah, but
first of
she would
all.
have to know that Russian citizen, the woman that was on here, she would have to know her own country is corrupt as hell too, right?
Well, I think there's different kinds of corruption. When you
Oh,
have, so the government in Russia is corrupt. Yeah, the propaganda they put out is also propaganda, but there is some
is
truth
it
to
even
their.
do the citizens of Russia even have any control over who their elected leaders are?
Right now, I don't think the United States does.
You don't think
Boom!
we
How
have
can
it?
that be said?
Yeah, elaborate on that. I need to hear more. Tell me what you're
Well, here
talking
we go.
about.
Conspiracy theory. Now you can put a tinfoil hat on my head,
I
but
need to hear
we don't
this.
have free and fair elections anymore.
When did it stop?
It stopped. Well, it's always been to a degree, and politicians that are old folks, they actually joke about it from both sides because they had proof of it in elections like in Maryland, and elections like in a few of your border states that are kind of not red or not blue. They kind of switch every 4 8 years. So it's always been there to some degree, but now it's to the point.
So how do we select leaders in this country?
Well, we have something that we see on the media, which is a lie, that makes it seem like we're still free and fair, and we go to our voting booths like dutiful citizens, and we elect our people, and that's the way it should be everywhere. The thing we don't get
So
is mass
we cur-
election
we
fraud.
currently wait. So we currently have Biden in the White House. Before him was
Correct,
Trump. What
correct.
made that change happen? If the voters didn't do it, what made it go from Trump to Biden?
Well, it's funny because we saw it prime time on election night after the elections. We were watching it.
Okay.
And then the
Okay.
next week or two before all the videos were taken down, we were still looking at that stuff until the media told us, huh, Trump's bad because he denies the election. Everyone's bad because they deny the election. If you see any fraud or you say anything, you're the wrong person. And then basically it got quiet from the politicians, and it got quiet eventually by the citizens, and you got a bunch of people just grumbling right now.
Let me
So
ask,
I mean, that's the way it went.
in regards to that, let me ask you this question, because obviously Trump was not the only person that lost his job in 2020. Mike Pence and a
Sure.
host of other Republicans. Why isn't any of the other Republicans that lost in 2020, up to and including the vice president, making the same allegations as Trump? I mean, they lost their jobs too.
Well, you got to keep in mind, think about it. There's money involved behind the scenes. There are promises about the future. There are people get blackmailed, skeletons in closets that
So
people
you
know
believe
about.
every Republican that lost and is keeping his mouth quiet was blackmailed into not saying anything?
That's one possibility, but that's not all. If he's got skeletons, they're out. They started getting a hold of all the FBI records during the Clinton administration. Why do you think the FBI is as bad as it looks like now? Think it's because just bad jokers got involved?
I get all of that, but I'm trying to figure out, because so many other Republicans
Yep,
lost that night in addition to
right.
Trump. And
But there were.
you're suggesting that they all were able to be corrupted off except for one guy.
It's not
And
correct. What about all the election deniers they were talking about that were running during the midterms? Remember all that? It was
yeah,
like 90 something people.
but they were not in office. I'm talking about people who were actually in office that lost their jobs, the ones who would have had the most right to complain, because they would have been saying, you cheated me out of a job. Not one of the Republican senators or Congress that lost
That's
that
not
day.
true. That's not true.
Who said anything?
We got the governor. Okay, the lady running for governor in Arizona did for both
No,
elections.
you're talking about Kerry Lake. We're talking about the 2020 election. Who
Yeah,
lost in that election in addition to Trump that believes that election was taken from him?
anybody who wants to have a future in politics at all had to shut up.
So
Trump was out.
you think that all of the Republican politicians that lost that day,
They
with the
were saying
exception
it,
of
but it went
Trump,
away in like 2 days. The conversations were happening. They weren't getting covered as well because that's the way our media works. And then it was forced to go away.
so
Because
none
one
of
of the
those
things was
folks.
if the American people lose faith in elections, what happens? That's not a good
Well,
thing.
let's take your word for it then. If that's the case, that
Hmm.
means all of those Republican politicians that were cheated out of their election, they could not be depended on to tell the American public the truth, because according
Well,
to you, they know the truth and they're keeping quiet. So it's probably a good idea they didn't win, right?
no. Some of them are gonna. First of all, we're not talking about people. We got this general cloud that we're talking about all the losers that were Republicans. That's not the case. A lot of those Republicans lost, and according to the data and all the anomalies and everything, they would have lost either way. There were Republicans that won when Trump lost, which doesn't happen. The down ticket,
So
everything was wrong.
so in that 2020 election, you're
Hmm.
saying that all the other Republicans that lost fair and square. Trump is the
Not
only
all of
one
them.
that got
Not all
cheated.
of them.
Who got cheated?
I would say, okay, first of all, we got 2 senators in Georgia from the
Why
the
are they
runoffs
complaining?
afterwards and before.
Why are
That's
those
two.
why are those 2 senators in Georgia not complaining about the election being taken from them?
Sometimes people complain, but it doesn't make the news. Do you realize that?
You're telling me a senator that if
All
Kerry
the
Lake,
time.
hold
All the
on,
time. The media covers what they
wait a
want to
minute,
get out there.
if Kerry Lake, who did not even win office, can get her complaints out, you're telling me two sitting senators cannot be heard?
One, it would not serve them. And number two, it wouldn't change anything. And number three, the way they're treating Trump, why do it? Think about that.
Because they care about the American people.
No, they care about a future in politics potentially. If you're 48 years old and you lose a race or get pulled out of office, that doesn't mean you're done, right? You know that, right?
Okay.
If you're going to be if everybody who denies the election was fair has been made to be crazy, like Trump, who's completely crazy, like your last person, he's crazy. They're crazy. Your political career would be over at 48. You understand?
Okay, I'm listening.
I mean, that just fits right together. But that
So why do you think, in your humble opinion, Mike Pence, who, as you put it,
he's a
got cheated
total
out of the
sellout.
election, huh?
Total sell. Mike Pence is a total sellout, partly because of how he behaved in the certification process, partly because he. I mean, I've read a lot of stuff, the tinfoil hat stuff. He's got skeletons, and
Okay,
if the
well let me
skeletons
ask
come
you
out,
this. Let's say everything you're saying is right. Mike Pence is a sellout. He got skeletons. Trump promised us when he got elected he was going to surround himself with the best and brightest. How is it
right?
that you know he has skeletons and he's a total sellout,
How
but
did you?
yet
How
the
do we know he
president who
knew?
appointed him? Wait a minute. Why do you know that information? And the guy who appointed him was not smart enough to know he's a total sellout and has
Because
skeletons. Why didn't Trump vet him right?
well, I don't know about that part. I wasn't in the vetting process, but I can tell you that 3 years, 3.5 years after, and all that time, you can find other things. You know what I'm saying? Trump didn't have 3.5 years to vet
The
Pence.
guy. So, I mean, so you don't see where Trump made any bad move by appointing Pence as
Oh, I
vice
think he did
president?
make a bad move
Okay.
because he
All
comes
right.
across as Mr. Straightlace. You know what I mean, Mr. Christian, Mr.
Right.
Above reproach. And
Right.
he even played his cards to be like, well, I don't know what Trump did all that. That was completely wrong. But,
So
I wouldn't have done that to go
so
along with the
who's
media
Mike
narrative.
Pence? So, in your opinion, who is Mike Pence selling us out to?
The same people that rigged the election,
The Democrats?
not
You
the
think the
Democrats. The
Democrats?
people didn't do it. The people
Who?
on the political leadership type did it and had the hands in it. When you're sitting there voting for somebody, you think, okay, so you watch the media, you think this guy's good based on what you're watching, this guy's probably bad based on what you're watching. You do a little research besides that, but then you go to the polls and you do a good citizen thing and vote. When I say Democrats, I'm not talking about you. You did everything right. You're a victim of the media based on what you're basing your stuff on, and you're a victim of the people that are rigging the election. And it's not
Okay.
like they had a rig 6 million votes and you look at the popular vote and everything. Go to each one of the states and see what the loss was by, or what the win was by, how
Right.
close it
So
was.
let me ask you this, because we've been you started out by saying we don't have free and fair elections, and we've been kind of focusing on the 2020 election. But let's go back.
Okay,
2016, Trump beats Hillary Clinton. Was
right.
that a free and fair election?
No, it was also rigged, but not for Trump. Hillary was so horrible as a candidate and so unliked that even with all of the shenanigans, enough people got out there and voted, and it worked out like it should have.
That's not rigging, though. If she's a hated candidate and people vote against her, what is the
No, no,
rigging
no,
of it?
no.
That's not
What I'm
rigging.
saying is all the rigged votes that are in there weren't enough to even.
So okay, so you believe Hillary was trying to steal it, and she didn't get
Not Hillary,
enough
people
steps.
for Hillary.
People
Hillary's,
for
it's not
okay,
a one person thing.
all right. So
When
let's
you got a
okay. So
machine behind you, it's the machine, not the thing.
all right, fair enough. So when I ask you, when did the free and fair thing start? Let's go back even further. Trump
Okay.
versus, I mean, yet Obama versus Mitt Romney in 2012. Obama wins. Was that a
Right.
free and fair election?
No, but it's different. Most of it wasn't at the ballot box. Most of it was by Romney himself. Look at his voting record. What is Romney? What has he voted for since Obama became the second, a second term, all the way through Trump? Romney's a complete sellout compromise. He's not a Republican. He's a rhino. He's worse than a rhino, I think.
Do you see Trump as a Republican?
No, but he's in the Republican pack because he has to be.
So he too is a rhino then.
No, no, no. Trump's not a rhino. He just actually does what the Republican Party is supposed to stand for. He's not compromised. But as
So
a
he's not.
whole, through his
So he's
history,
not a
he's not
Republican.
a
So
Republican.
he is not a Republican according to you, but he does what the party stands for. So what is he pretending to be something he's not?
No, he's populist. He's for the people. He's something we haven't seen since Kennedy time. He's actually trying to fix the country how he sees fit, from his
Yeah.
perspective.
Well, I think they all are. We just disagree
No,
with
I
some of the ways
disagree.
they're doing it. You don't think
Most, like
you
you
don't think
said, politicians are narcissists. They want, if they're a county council guy, they don't want to be there. They want to go to the next level, to the next level, to the next level.
There is
They're
no
not
next
looking at
level above
people.
president. There is no next level above president.
No.
You're
I'm
at the
saying your
top level.
average politician is a narcissist.
Okay. Do
It's
you
not
see
like
Trump
Trump's
as
the first narcissist that ever's been in the presidency. Every
okay?
president has been a narcissist.
That is true. That is true. All right, Seymour, do little. Hell of a
Hey, let's talk
conversation.
about Russia.
Unfortunately, I got to move it on, but go ahead and I'll let you wrap it up.
Oh
Go ahead.
my gosh, I didn't even get to say I had notes and everything.
Well,
Can you give me like
unfortunately,
a speed
I'm
round? A speed
on a
round? Like,
time schedule. Your conversation just got
can you
so
give me 30
interesting. We went
seconds?
down a different path. Go
Can I
ahead.
get 30? Okay, 30 seconds. Okay. We already talked about how the Western media is a bunch of bull crap, and we're not learning a lot of what's actually going on because we don't have anything else to look at. All right. And then you also brought up the Azov battalion. You didn't bring it up, but you started to talk about Azov and the people that are Russians in Ukraine getting really beat up. The NATO promise that the Iron Curtain goes down, and then all of a sudden, but we're not going to move NATO any closer. Well, we'll take this country. Well, we'll take it. Then we get all the way to the borders of Russia, and then now Russia's not supposed to be concerned with that. 600 miles from Moscow. They shouldn't be upset about that at all, even though we picked up
Who's the
like 12
bad guy in
countries.
the Russian-Ukrainian conflict? Who do you think is the bad guy?
Both. They're both bad guys. But the Western media makes it seem like evil Russia. Oh, yeah. Zelensky's a hero. Yay. It's all about money and industrial complex. We're not replacing our weapons.
Do you believe Russia had a legitimate reason to invade?
Yes, I do. Okay. I do. Right. Is Russia a good guy? Because they're just looking out for their own interests, like any country would. They're not any worse, or I'm not a fan of Russia, but I'm not a fan of Western media and how they're making everybody into these dupes. That like the last guy that was very intelligent, talking about, like, it was like talking points of Western media. He had nothing else, just like talking points of CNN. And it's just, it's sad.
Some might say your view on the 2020 election is talking points from the right as well. But I got to move it on, Seymour.
All right, my tinfoil hat, I tap it to you, my friend.
All right, good talk.
You be blessed.
Absolutely. Come on back anytime. All right, look, that last guy was very intelligent, period. Fair enough. We're talking about the guy before this guy. That's what you're talking. Okay, have you talked to anybody that's in Ukraine or on this app? You'll hear a lot of truth. Fuck boy, is that what that's saying? No, fuck toy, I can't pronounce that. But I have had Ukrainians on the program before. It's been a few months, but I've had somebody in Romania, which is another nation in that area. I've had a Ukrainian on the program. I do get some folks in Eastern Europe. Not often, but I do get some in there. The woman who was born in Belarus, I believe it is, which is a border ally country of Russia. She says she was Russian. She was born in Belarus. She's currently in Israel. I think I've had another citizen from Belarus on there as well. Now, Belarus is very pro-Russian, by the way. So you're going to get, the mindset from a favorable standpoint of Russia anytime you get somebody from Belarus. Anyhow, as always, this time I kind of went over it, but I do appreciate you guys rolling with your boy. Almost got me to 120,000 likes. I appreciate the love. You could be anywhere you want to be on this app. As always, anytime you're rolling with your boy, it's always an honor. As always, my program is a MAGA-friendly program. MAGA are my preferred guests. I don't ban, block, or censor anyone for their commentary. You know how we do it. Even without a moderator, we tend to make successful, civilized dialogue happen from both sides of the aisle. If this is what you enjoy, this type of civilized dialogue from both sides, feel free to follow the program. It helps out the algorithms, brings me more MAGA, but liberals are indeed welcome on the program as well. So, having said that, 122,000 likes or whatever the hell you guys have blessed your boy with, I do appreciate that. God damn, that's nice. I don't want to take the Lord's word in vain, but damn, that is very nice, you guys. Shout out to you. None but love and respect. 11:30 a.m. Central Time is when we do this. It's a lunch break live. I got to take my ass back to work. It's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I got to go.